tomorrow's news today.
After the Russians secured Pentagon-run biolabs in Ukraine, the U.S. Embassy was caught deleting proof of this from their website. And when the Russians shared documents showing the Ukrainian Minister of Health ordering employees of these biolabs to destroy all deadly pathogens, U.S. Senator Marco Rubio asked the U.S. State Department if there was any truth to this. Undersecretary Victoria Nuland not only confirmed the presence of the labs, but confirmed that they contain weaponized biological agents that they now fear the Russians will indiscriminately use to start a world war. The Pentagon calls them bio-research cells and containment labs, and claim their clandestine operation is all somehow in self-defense. But they are admittedly creating and storing weaponized biological material. And so these biolabs are in violation of Article 1 of the Prohibition on Biological Weapons. During the past couple years, citizens of the world have been getting an advanced education on bioweapons. And the very same crooks we see foisting the Great Reset medical tyranny are involved in the Ukrainian bioweapons labs. This is all being paid for with tax dollars through the Pentagon's Defense Threat Reduction Agency, the DTRA. U.S. company Black & Veatch has been working closely with the DTRA building bioweapons labs since 2003. Black & Veatch share an office in Kiev with Metabiota, who signed an $18.4 million contract with Black & Veatch in 2014. Metabiota got their start in 2015 with funding from Hunter Biden's Rosemont Seneca Technology Partners, who gave Metabiota $30 million to help protect the world from the spread of epidemics. This is the very same Rosemont Seneca that was mysteriously wired $3.5 million from the wife of the former mayor of Moscow. And the very same Metabiota partnered with Peter Daszak's EcoHealth Alliance, the group that Dr. Fauci used to funnel money to the Wuhan lab for gain-of-function research in 2014. In 2014, Metabiota, EcoHealth Alliance, and the Wuhan Institute of Virology were together researching infectious diseases deriving from Chinese bats. Metabiota is working with known CIA front In-Q-Tel. It is funded by the U.S. Department of Defense, the NIH, the Bill and Melinda Gates Foundation, Google, and the National Geographic Society. Metabiota's founder, Nathan Wolf, sits on the board of EcoHealth Alliance and is a member of DARPA's Defense Science Research Council. In 2012, he wrote a book titled The Viral Storm: The Dawn of a New Pandemic Age, wherein he thanked his friends, pedophile Jeffrey Epstein and biotech venture capitalist Boris Nikolic. Boris Nikolic was named Jeffrey Epstein's successor executor upon his death. Wolf has also been seen hanging out with Ghislaine Maxwell on multiple occasions. He is also one of Klaus Schwab's young global leaders, trained on how to enact the Great Reset agenda being directed by the World Economic Forum. Russia claims the Pentagon has over 30 biolabs in the Ukraine alone. China claims they are operating 336 biolabs in 30 different countries. And now, members of our corrupt U.S. government are saying this is all a Russian conspiracy, and that we should soon expect a false flag attack from Russia.
If there's a biological or chemical weapon incident or attack inside of Ukraine, is there any doubt in your mind that 100% it would be the Russians that would be behind it?
There is no doubt in my mind, Senator, and it is classic Russian technique to blame on the other guy what they're planning to do themselves.
Reporting for InfoWars, this is Greg Reese.
Back at the gas station, you realize people want this solved. Anthony Okoko voted for the president.
I might go Republican. The way things are going, something got to be done.
If you think phase one of the launch phase, COVID-19 was bad, the artificial cutting off of the world energy supply is a death sentence to hundreds of millions, and it is a poverty sentence for another billion people or so, and that's in the numbers.
At this pivotal moment, I see several priorities for the global agenda. We must revitalize the global economy and accelerate its transition to net zero.
Last month, we announced a $5 billion investment to build out a nationwide electric vehicle charging network so that people from rural to suburban to urban communities can all benefit from the gas savings of driving an EV.
We're going to see gas prices likely increase. What is the thinking within your caucus about how to deal with that issue?
Yeah, that issue hasn't come up. We have to move to clean energy solutions with great accelerating.
But a clean conscience is worth $1 or $2. I'm willing to pay $4 a gallon. Hell, I'll pay $15 a gallon because I drive a Tesla.
We should be investing right here at home in renewable energy technologies. We should be weaning ourselves of fossil fuels.
The spectacle of Biden publicly asking Saudi Arabia to increase output, publicly asking Venezuela to increase output, and then blocking all new oil leases on public land and most of the other leases, and shutting down several thousand pipeline spurs, including the Keystone Pipeline. A foreign army couldn't shut our power off like this.
It's simply not true that my administration or policies are holding back domestic energy production. That's simply not true.
One of the biggest changes that we've seen between the Trump administration and the Biden administration is the volume of regulations that are now on the table. President Trump was correct. He wanted to dramatically reduce the number of regulations on the books, that would actually provide greater autonomy and freedom for these companies and for the American people. Biden's doing the exact opposite, and it's even worse than that. He's looking to have mission creep, so if there's a traditional authority that the EPA operates, he wants the Federal Reserve to get involved. He wants HHS involved, the Securities and Exchange Commission. That's not how our constitutional system works.
There are 9,000 approved drilling permits that are not being used. So the suggestion that we are not allowing companies to drill is inaccurate. The suggestion that that is what is hindering or preventing gas prices to come down is inaccurate.
That accusation is a complete red herring, and it's really a distraction from the fact that this administration has paused leasing on federal lands, something that we're concerned about and something that we think needs to continue right away. The fact is that industry is producing at a higher level on existing leases on federal lands than in the last 20 years. And these leases take many years to explore, to develop, and to produce on.
It's not truthful, right? And it's not truthful at all. From day one, this administration has been hell-bent with their anti-American energy holy war to shut down the production of American energy. She knows that, right? It's delaying leases. Look, you can get a lease and then they delay the permits for you to be able to do seismic and do work on it. In Alaska, they delay the ability to get a permit for an ice road, which is how we go and do exploration on these leases. They've shut that down. They've tried to kill pipelines. Day one, you saw Biden said he wasn't going to produce on energy on ANWR, even though it's in the law that he has to do it, says shall. And then you guys you have people like John Kerry and Gina McCarthy going around to the American financial community saying don't invest in American energy. So day one, they have been focused on killing the production of American energy.
Phase one is to release the virus, lock down society, destroy supply chains, introduce the idea of a global digital ID as a vaccine passport, so they can then have a war and cyber attacks and then bring down the world currency and blame COVID and the war for it, but offer everyone a universal basic income to survive on the new digital currency as the other currencies fail. Ladies and gentlemen, thank you so much for joining us. It's Saturday, March 12th, 2022, and I'm your host, Alex Jones, here with my intrepid crew, working 7 days a week, so I salute them and thank them for the amazing job they do. And all of you, the viewers and listeners, who without you, we would not be here. And I'm not bragging when I say this. Again, I'm saying this so you understand that you're getting a report card back on what your investment in InfoWars has done. We are the main organization that does the original hardcore research and then puts it out as factoids, linked to the proof, so that all the major talk show hosts basically now have their crew, have their producers watching and listening to every show and going and checking what we say and then going on air with it in their own great ways. And in the process of that, they're learning about the New World Order and how it operates, and I'm seeing them no longer need us, which is my main mission, is to make myself obsolete. We're still not there, but we're getting close. We're getting close, ladies and gentlemen. Obviously, we'll still have problems. We'll still be going, dealing with things, and I'm still going to have a talk show, Lord willing. But we're either going to turn these globalists back, or it's just going to turn into beyond 1984, which we're almost at right now. So God is watching, and God helps those that helps themselves. All right. I'm going to give you the real skinny on Russia, and we know where this is going now, and we know how things are unfolding, and we know the different scenarios that run from horrible to apocalyptic. So we have that here, and an escalation that is just bone-chilling. World War III alert. Russia announces plans and has warned NATO that any forces coming across the border with weapons, or they think have weapons, will be bombed from the air. And of course, there's massive amounts of weapons, and U.S. troops are in Ukraine. They're in Ukraine. They train Ukrainians. NATO forces are there. Australians are there. Brits are there. Germans are there. Dutch are there. And it is a full-on war. So when Tucker Carlson says we're at war with Russia last week, yeah, we're in a proxy war, and $13.6 billion just got sent to Ukraine. That means into the Democratic Party coffers. They launder about half the money out back to themselves on record. Hell, they don't even launder it. Their family members, husbands, wives, daughters, sons, run the infrastructure of the poorest country in Europe. It also has, for any per capita size, the most resources of any country in Europe. Just stacked side by side with any country in Europe. It has better farmland. It has more rare earth minerals. It has just everything. But it's the poorest, just like Mexico. Per capita has more wealth than we do. But the people are poor because their elites don't let them have any of the wealth and keep a caste system going to keep people in a position that can be managed quite well. And it's been the American experiment that tried to stop that worldwide, but that's being destroyed right now under the Great Reset. We're going back to a serf peon system. But I digress. That is just one article in one news piece we have. Russia threatens attack on NATO weapons shipments to Ukraine as legitimate targets. And I'm going to explain in a moment why that's so important and why that's such a big deal and how it ties into this story, this breakdown from the online encyclopedia, the Lusitania. Why is the Lusitania sinking off the coast of England on May 7th, 1915 so important with what the Russians just announced? Because this is a Lusitania parallel. These two things parallel each other, side by side. And of course, what the Lusitanian sinking caused: the United States entry into World War I. So that's coming up here in just a few minutes. Let me tell you the other news we've got, because there's a lot of Ukraine news. That'll take at least 30, 40 minutes, all of these stacks right here. And then I've got what it's causing in the energy markets and in commodities and starvation and where all that's going. We'll also get into this breaking story that broke yesterday in the Texas Tribune in Bastrop, a town just outside Austin to the east. A state-run facility producing child porn and pimping out the children. Yep. And just like Sandusky and Penn State, they were already abused children as young as 7 being pimped. Child porn, shooting child porn. And of course, you know it's 100 times worse than they're telling you, and then you wonder who these people are. Well, we know exactly who they are. Now, you'll either have facilities that are run excellent by good Christian people, and they don't let the bad people get in, or you'll have facilities like this where the bad guys get the contract, set it up, and no one believes these children until the scum running it sell the videos and photos of them raping them. And that's why it's open and shut, because they sold the footage. That's why it's in the news, like, they got caught raping kids. They got caught selling the child porn. They got caught. It's not even alleged. They got the frickin' video. Now, what do you think happens when millions come across the border, half of them below the age of 18, some of them only 6 months old, and just disappear? I've been down at the so-called Catholic charities in South Texas where the people literally are working for the drug cartels. They all got the drug cartel tattoos, and they're handing babies off to people with no IDs, and men literally come in. We had an undercover inside there. He goes, I came from Pennsylvania. I want my women. I don't want any men. I want young women and girls. I'm going to teach them the way of the Lord. And then we had this undercover cop inside there. He follows her out. She's a little woman and runs into our people. And of course, we're on the outside. And he goes, hey, what's going on here? You've seen the video. We're like, hey, you were just in there saying that you're here to pick up the girls and women with no ID, no paperwork, no nothing. He's like, yeah, they need to be made to work. I need to, I mean, right out of Central Casting, ladies and gentlemen. That guy could go to Hollywood right now and get a job playing the same type of characters that Ron Stelter should be hired for. I mean, you want, Rob Zombie, you want some scary people for your next movie? You got them. You go down there and you look at it, and then you know how I felt trying to stop the smuggler cars and everything? You know how I felt after I went and did that? I didn't feel like a good person. I felt like crap. I got very depressed going down to the border 5 or 6 times. And quite frankly, that's how evil works, is good people just can't handle it anymore and just kind of back off and run to the hills while the evil takes over. But, ladies and gentlemen, our government publicly admits that they are trafficking children all over the world. It's not our government, it's a criminal group. And the CIA in Germany, starting after the occupation of 45 until now, hundreds of thousands of small children are taken from Christians, that's who they target, and given to rapists at age 3 to be trained as sex slaves. And by age 6 or 7, they are then delivered to facilities, usually Catholic churches, where they rape the children on Friday night or Wednesday night when everybody's gone in the main cathedral area. Now this has come out in the news. This is in DW.com. I mean, this is all confirmed. And you ask, well, why would they do that? Because Satanists want to desecrate Christ. So if you can have a satanic ceremony in a church, that is the best place to have it. You get like Super Mario Brother gets the mushroom, he gets, invincibility. To the Satanists, that's what they do all over the world in every culture. You desecrate. I'm not going to tell you what they do. It's a little too graphic, but let's just say this. They're not just raping little boys and girls on the altar. They bleed them out with Black Sabbaths. They drink their blood. And they rip their throats out with their teeth while other children watch, gagged, and then they march up the next child to be murdered. And what they're getting is the fear and the terror of the children watching the other one being tortured gives them pleasure. Now, you want to know who these judges are, some of them? You want to know who these corrupt politicians are? You want to know who they are? They are the minions of these forces. And you've got all the little bureaucrats who aren't even involved in it, but they know something's going on, and they're just delivering the children and moving the children around. And you can believe, ladies and gentlemen, that even the U.S. Senate report admits, that came out 6 years ago, right before Trump got in, that Obama knowingly placed tens of thousands of children with known sex traffickers. If you're a new listener, a new viewer, and you're hearing all this, you're thinking this is too much, go read the DW.com articles. 30,000 pedophiles, 10,000 children, 30,000, 20,000. I mean, we're talking over decades per city. And you go, oh, potential suspects. And then you read the actual article, and it is a government program in Germany. And then you learn they have them in England, they have them here, everywhere, to create the new culture of love, where you have a man with a boy and a woman with a girl, and there's no more family. And then the children are raised into pedophilia to then be groomers and recruiters themselves after they've done their tour of service until they're 15 years old. There it is. The German experiment that placed foster children with pedophiles. Now, remember when you're watching CNN and they're saying none of this exists, that they know full damn well it does, and a bunch of CNN hosts have been busted trafficking children. And remember that when you see Atlantic Monthly, owned by Steve Jobs' wife, it's her favorite place to hang out was Epstein Island with Ghislaine Maxwell. Remember when they have articles about, oh, there's no such thing as pedophilia going on. There's no epidemic of pedophilia. That you are looking at the top of the pyramid of these people. Simultaneously, they've got news articles everywhere telling you that pedophilia is a good thing. Okay? So they want to destroy innocence. Most of them were abused themselves. They can't form real relationships with a cognizant adult. And they want to react out everything that was done to them to more children. And that's on the evil end, and it just gets worse from there. It starts with that. And then it just goes over the edge into the total abyss of just bloody orgies where people just go berserk, just ripping children apart. Indescribable. I've read the Interpol and FBI reports. They've come out in court before, not very many times. Any feds that have worked on that know what I'm talking about. I mean, like, you know, bring in like 4 or 5 little toddlers, rape them till their guts are hanging out their rear end, and then .357 Magnums just start blowing their heads off. I mean, snuff films that folks, that even reading the reports makes you want to throw up. And reportedly, the law enforcement can't even do this much. I mean, you do this a year or something at that level, the people have to retire. I mean, they're totally fried. And because, I mean, how could you watch this stuff? And there's thousands of known snuff films that are just being quietly swept under the rug. Why? Because they know you can't handle the truth, except you can handle the truth. You can handle the truth. And we're not going to change this world, and we're not going to defeat these people until we admit they're evil, we admit it's going on, and we organize against them, and we stop them. And they know we're organizing to stop them, so they're setting up their global cashless society control grid, where they can cut the resources back to almost nothing, censor everybody so nobody knows what's going on, and then carry out the orderly roundup of their opposition so they can then turn their main attention to the destruction of the children. Because if you think chopping them up in blood orgies, sex orgies is evil, imagine the mass industrial scale, giving them cancer, giving them blood clots, giving them a disease, giving them VAIDS, vaccine autoimmune deficiency syndrome, which is now mainstream news. Told you 2 years ago it'll be record level HIV. Now it is record level HIV because it's a spike protein in the vaccine. And it makes your body create it. I mean, again, its defense is that it's so insane, its defense mechanism, that people cannot believe it's happening and automatically go into Stockholm syndrome. Hey guys, I sent this to you Thursday. It was on the list and I forgot to play it. Well, you guys, there's actually 2 clips on Thursday's list. One of them is the fat lady and the raccoon chasing her. And then there's one other one that was right beside it. I forget which one. It was another people acting totally fearful. And I remember, you know, being a kid and watching Jason, you know, at the movie theater. I'd sneak off with my friends. My parents didn't let me watch and stuff like that, but we'd still, you know, they still let us in the movie theater when we were 10 years old. We'd walk a few miles to the movie theater and we'd go in and see Friday the 13th or Nightmare on Elm Street, stuff like that. And I always remember when the killers come into the forest, the people, they run and then they fall down and back up on their feet and their hands going, please, no. And I just remember always seeing that thinking, well, I wouldn't act like that. I've had a bull try to run me over and literally jumped over a 7-foot fence, and everybody made a big joke about it. And they said, the point is that because I had normal instincts. I wasn't a hero. I wasn't some badass. I just thought this can't be real. People don't actually, when a guy's chasing with a butcher knife, stumble and fall and then back up on their hands and butt saying, please no. But then I grew up and learned about crime scenes and criminology and history and found out a lot of women just fall down and start begging, and a lot of men do it now too. 100 years ago, almost no men. Little skinny, guy, not a tough guy. You pull a butcher knife out and say, I'm going to kill you. He's going to fight. You may still kill him, but he's going to fight you. But people have been programmed to fall down. And there's been cases now in Canada, I think one other in the U.S., and there's also been cases of puma that might weigh 50, 60 pounds that kill somebody because they fall down and flop. That's the last thing you do, is fall down and flop to a predator. So nowhere in modern history do you hear about raccoons chasing people until now. And now, I was up in Virginia 6 months ago or so, up there on business and stuff in D.C. We stayed in Virginia, and we were out hiking by the river, and this raccoon came down the thing and was hissing at me, and I just threw a log at it, and it ran back up a tree, and I threw more logs at it, and you know what? When we came back later and it saw us, it ran back off. Now, I'm not a big tough guy. I'm not bragging. Oh, I made a little raccoon run away. Usually when they're in the backyard, I give them dog food or whatever. I like raccoons. They're cute. But the issue here is that he was busy chasing people around by the river there at the golf course where we stayed. And it's the same thing. So let's go ahead and roll this again with audio of a woman that probably weighs 400 pounds. She's probably about 5'3". And a raccoon sees her, and she just wants to take pictures of it. And he's in the middle of the street, by the way, at a 4-way street. Everybody's stopping, watching, and he's arrogant. He wasn't acting like he had rabies. He wasn't. No, he's just pissed off, and he's out there, and he doesn't fear humans anymore. So he's walking around in the middle of the day, and by the way, in L.A. and stuff, bobcats are in people's backyard. Everybody's so scared of them. The bobcat now attacks the people. Same thing. And this woman falls over. And that's what she does. She starts running backwards to get away from a predator, and then she falls, and then it keeps coming, and then a man comes over, and it doesn't back down from that. Should have just drop-kicked it. And I mean, this is who we are, ladies and gentlemen. Yeah, go ahead and roll it with audio. Here it is. Let's download it right now and get it with audio. Does it not have audio? Because it had some funny stuff on it. Remember when I sent it? Because remember, we're on a lot of radio stations. We need audio. I'm going to reset. I'm going to take a break. I'm not mad. I'm not mad. I came in here to do all this, and I'm starting to rant. So I'm going to take a little break. See, what happens is, I try to come in here, and I used to be very disciplined on the air 25 years ago, even 20 years ago, 10 years ago. But I started not being disciplined about 10 years ago. And I'd have all these stacks of news, and I would come onto the show, and I would cover every damn bit of it. At least in a cursory way. Some of it in depth. And then now I come in and I say, let me tell you what's coming up today. And then I just start getting into it. Well, this is coming up, and I go ahead and start covering it. But then I do a half-assed job. So let me start back over. All right, folks, it's Saturday, March 12th, 2022. I'm your host, Alex Jones. We've got just incredibly important news. We have the world moving very quickly towards world war yet again with the situation in Russia. Huge developments there. We also have a terrible case of a state-certified large group home with small children that had been turned into a pedophile brothel and child porn production facility. We'll be getting into all of that. That's right outside Austin, of course. Where else would it be? And then we've got giant worldwide food collapse because of the Great Reset. They're now blaming on the war. We have the UN admitting, okay, there are U.S. biological weapons labs in Ukraine. We've got all the incredible energy news. And then we've got this gigantic news over here that's just so huge. I mean, how do you even deal with it? We have the UN officially coming out with a plan to take over all the major governments of the world. Response. Isn't that interesting? Response to any future disease outbreaks. So officially, we have the world going under United Nations control. So we're going to air a little clip here, and then I'm going to restart the show, and I'm going to come back in here, and I'm going to nail it. And I'm going to go over all the points last night, this morning, and this afternoon that I thought about as I read these articles, and all the insights and all the things, and why we're in so much danger, and how they're planting big false flags to blame the Russians, and is there a way for us to mount such an outcry that we derail this? And I think there is a very good chance, because a lot of people are going to end up having their own self-preservation instincts. Can we put the live show headline up for folks? I want to put the live show headline up for everybody, so people just get an idea of what we're on air here today talking about and what we're going to be going over. There it is. World War III just got a lot closer. Russia announces plan to bomb NATO convoys entering Ukraine. Now, why is that such a giant deal? Well, it's a big deal because then NATO will attack Russian forces, and then Russian forces have said that they are outnumbered and outmanned. That's their doctrine. I don't know if that's true. Pretty evenly matched when it comes to conventional weapons, it looks like. And they're going to use tactical nuke. And then what do you think NATO is going to do? I mean, the United States is the only country that has dropped atomic bombs on cities that were already destroyed on civilian targets. So, I mean, if you think the people running this country won't kill a bunch of people, you got another thing coming. The United States has got the most evil, twisted people the Earth's ever seen running it. And they like to kill people. You know, I mean, in their off hours, they're literally slitting children's throats. Jimmy Savile used to deliver little girls every few weeks. 7, 8 years old was his favorite. 5, 6 years old, to a British Prime Minister. And they'd lay plastic out in front of his desk. And they just marched a little girl in pigtails, just slit her throat right in front of him. That's what he sexually liked. And you know what? He was the Prime Minister, and if he wanted to do that, he got to. It's about his power. He was a big man. So they fetishize death and destruction, and they get off on this. And so this is like the big shiny object for these Satanists. And so we're going to have to deal with it. So I come in here, and this is why I get frustrated, not with the crew, I'm frustrated with myself. And what I used to do 20 years ago was have all my stacks in a row, and then I would just go through each stack and set the other stack aside. Then I got so many articles that I started having to spread them out, and it's become a real frustration point for me. Because here's an example. I was about to go to the UN announcement, and the announcement, it's on Infowars.com by multinational groups, that the UN is also coming out with its global standardized global digital currency. I thought that was a pretty big deal. That's on Infowars.com too, but I can't seem to find that in the stack. I mean, just that story should be 2 hours of analyzing the whole damn thing. And I mean, but this is what it's like when we're going from beta to operational with their takeover. We're now here, ladies and gentlemen, that global social credit industry, social credit system infrastructure represents 16.1 billion opportunity by 2026. And that's just one announcement, press release being put out about, oh, the global social credit score's here, and this is just one area of the investment already being done by BlackRock and Larry Fink. I mean, they are rolling out the digital enslavement system to micromanage and control every facet of your life. And then I'm on YouTube yesterday and I see this Democrat up there lauding censorship, saying it's great, and saying, oh, look at Marjorie Taylor Greene. She was on Alex Jones' show complaining that she wouldn't wear a mask, so they took all of her money from her congressional paycheck away from her. And he starts fetishizing. He goes, I love how we're just going to be able to take the money out of all their accounts, and we're going to be able to control them with a social credit score. And I sent the clip to him Friday, but I just couldn't watch it again. You know, it's like you watch it once and it's enough. And he's up there. When I saw it, like 100,000 views as a popular talk show host. And he's just high and mighty, like he's a potentate or something. He's like, well, that's just perfect. She didn't follow the rules. And it's so good just to take it right out of their account. That's how we're going to manage the future with these right-wingers, Christians and people, is we're just going to take everything out of their accounts and control everything they do. He was just pretending like he's part of the power structure because he's a useful idiot selling out his fellow humans. As if that moron doesn't know they'll get to him next. As if that moron doesn't know the globalists disrespect him and would never even try to meet him or recruit him because they already own him. It's the same reason world leaders won't talk to Biden or Harris, because they know they're not real and it's a joke. It's a joke on them. Xi Jinping now won't talk to Biden. The head of the UAE, the head of Saudi Arabia. It's everywhere because they know it's a joke, ladies and gentlemen. And I'm not up here going, oh, look how high and mighty I am. But I get the calls from the world leaders, not just Trump. I get the calls from the top people. Okay? Bilderberg Group people, all of it. Because I actually know how stuff works. I'm at the adult table. I don't agree with them at the table, but I'm at the table because I have the knowledge of how they operate. They don't have any respect for people that play along with the system and get their talking points and regurgitate it out. And that's what's so sick about the folks that have gone along with the New World Order, is they don't understand that they are true losers. But what do you expect when you get a bunch of followers and you get mega banks that start handing out trillions of dollars while they devalue it to people that will do what they're told? The New World Order is spending the majority of the inflated money when they get first use of it and pass on the debt to us and the inflation to us to buy people off. And it comes out, oh, thousands of prominent media paid millions in some cases by taxpayer money by Biden to say they love the vaccine. Well, you don't need to know they got paid off. They all have the same damn script. But yeah. Oh, but it's trade secrets. How much money Newsmax and Fox got. And don't you know, folks, that I can snap my fingers still. Hell, they want me to sell out now even worse than ever. I could snap my fingers and get $50 million if I wanted it from these people, but I'd be owned. And suddenly all the heat and all the attacks would be gone. The reason I've said I'm not leading any military campaign or I'm neutral in all this is because I couldn't lead something. As corrupt and decadent as society is today, and as backstabbing and weird, we don't have organized enough good people to even be able to go stop these people. Anything we did would be sabotaged and twisted and turned to bad. That's why only God can fix it through us, through changing how we are inside. And people that work for the system and that are corrupt have to finally get, before they totally turn their soul over to evil, and for some of them they've already gone too far, that everything is in doing the right thing. And everything is in changing their heart. And that's where salvation and truth is, and being found and not being lost. If you're tired of being lost, folks, say no to the New World Order. If you're tired of being unhappy, stop going along with the system. And realize that we're coming up to the complexity of what they call the singularity, or whether the singularity that Ray Kurzweil talks about ever could really happen, because that's like the mind of God is a singularity, total knowledge, control of matter, everything, Godhood. Arrogant BS from Ray Kurzweil. He's not going to live forever, the way he says. He's not going to resurrect his dad like he says he is, with notes about his father, all this made-up crap. It's delusion. They're selling fraud. No, what they're doing is pretending to be God and saying they're God. But as we get godlike power, doesn't mean godlike intellect, godlike omnipresence or understanding or timelessness, but as we get godlike power, weapons that can destroy the whole galaxy, stuff like that. Oh yeah, I mean, you think 130-year-old technology is a big deal? Atomic bombs? That's how old the technology is. It was on the drawing board 125 years ago. There's not much new under the sun, ladies and gentlemen. And so, if you think, I'm talking to the people out there that serve evil, that you're on the winning team, you had really better think again, because you're not on the winning team. You're on the losing team. I'm going to stop preaching. It's times like these, though. So, we've had a good little 30-something minutes here of me live. Had some very important intro pieces we played. We're going to play a couple clips here. I'm going to reset, and I'm going to come in here, and I am going to nail it on what's happening in Ukraine and why it's so important. And you'll notice what we told you was going to happen 2 years ago is now happening. What we told you 10 years ago is now happening. And I think my real frustration is this. I don't like to come on air and say the type of things I'm about to say. I mean, do you think I want to go on air and talk about people ripping babies apart and drinking their blood? No, I don't want to talk about that. Really, I want to be watching sunsets and eating peaches and cream. Seriously. I want to be playing with little puppy dogs in the backyard of my daughter. But we've got to admit this, okay, or we don't have any hope. The minute we admit we're up against evil and the devil's real and wants to kill, steal, and destroy, is the beginning of us breaking free from this. And I know the main audience tuned in understands that. And like the prodigal son, you're asking me, hey, why are you spending all your time on the enemy when the people that are awake are what matters? Well, read the prodigal son. No, that's not true. We have to try to convict the heart of people that are under the spell of evil, because a lot of them are not consciously serving this, and they've just been manipulated through fear and abuse and control. And we need to get them to come over to our camp. Believe me, if I could have a couple hours with most of these people in private, because I'm somewhat well-spoken on TV and radio, but in person I can really talk to people. And I guarantee you, most of these globalists have done it hereditarily or through corruption and fear, and because of competitiveness with other powerful people, they've turned to evil. And if they knew there was a way out of this, in a way that they could organize and turn against it, they would do it. And it's going to be in that type of action that we're going to find really some of our MVPs. And so that's where we are. So that's not just the cheesy Return of the Jedi where Darth Vader says, why am I killing my son? Why am I letting this guy kill my son? I'm going to kill the Emperor. And of course, you got to sacrifice yourself in the process of that. That's what that's all about, folks. The archetypes, you watch that and you go, this is real, even though it's fiction, because the archetype is real, that warriors have to die or sacrifice or lose part of themselves to help the future. And if you don't stand up for your children, and if you let people hurt your children and lie to your children and abuse your children and brainwash your children and lead them into evil, then God is going to cut you off, and you're going to end up just like Emperor Palpatine falling down that 1,000-mile-long shaft into a nuclear reactor. Okay, let's play a couple clips, and I'm going to come back, and I'm going to get into news reporting here and get out of preacher mode. It's just, I appreciate everybody tuning in and putting up with sometimes. It's really hard to just cover this, but it needs to be covered, and I need to just, I don't want to say all this stuff, but you know what? I'm going to tell you what I think is going to happen so people get moving and we stop this. And I've seen some encouraging things as well, and some also very, very scary things. So after the clips, guys, we'll get that first clip of Biden ready, where he talks about nuclear war. Stay with us. Here we are, my friends, on this Saturday, March 12th, 2022 transmission. And the world is on the verge of thermonuclear war. Joe Biden got that right. It's good to hear something come out of the puppet's mouth that isn't a total lie, like he has, quote, nothing to do with energy prices. going up. We have clips of him saying they were going to raise the price of carbon so you couldn't use it. But here is Biden. Clip 2 says NATO versus Russia would be World War III. And that's exactly where we're going with the developments. Here it is.
We'll defend every single inch of NATO territory with the full might of the united and galvanized NATO. We will not fight a war against Russia in Ukraine. Direct confrontation between NATO and Russia is World War III, something we must strive to prevent. But we already know Putin's war against Ukraine will never be a victory. He hoped to dominate Ukraine without a fight. He failed. He hoped to fracture European resolve. He failed. He hoped to weaken the transatlantic alliance. He failed. He hoped to split apart American democracies in terms of our positions. He failed. The American people are united. The world is united. And we stand with the people of Ukraine. We will not let autocrats and would-be emperors dictate the direction of the world. Democracies are rising to meet this moment, rallying the world to the side of peace and the side of security. We're showing our strength, and we will not falter. God bless all of you. God bless Ukraine, and God bless our troops.
God bless our troops, because we're at war with Russia right now in a proxy war. U.S. forces have been there. They're there helping train them with the weapons, helping deliver the weapons. And that's the big announcement right here. Russia threatens attack on NATO weapons shipments to Ukraine as legitimate targets. Says they'll blow up any planes landing or any convoys coming in with NATO forces in them. And they're warning the West, stop doing it, stop dumping the weapons. And I don't just believe articles when I read them. I went and checked the Russian news in English, and sure enough, they were actually saying that. So what's the parallel there? Well, the sinking of the RMS Lusitania. And what did the Germans do? They put full-page ads in newspapers across the U.S., particularly in the New York Times, saying, do not sail on this ship. They gave them a month. They ran the ads day after day for a huge sum of money, even at that time. It was massive. Saying, if you sail on that ship that was a cruise liner, we are going to sink it. And they sunk it. There's the notice. Are you intending travelers to embark on the Atlantic voyage? Well, we remind you that you're at war with Germany and we're at war with Great Britain. And they're flying a non-military flag, but they're a military ship carrying weapons and munitions. We're going to sink it. And the rest is history. So if the Russians think giving notice is going to stop war propaganda, when those 18-wheelers and those aircraft coming into Ukraine full of Stinger missiles, Javelin missiles, and many other weapons, grenade launchers, ammunition, heavy machine guns, rocket launchers. If Russia thinks that that's going to matter in the news when a bunch of U.S. troops or other troops get killed from NATO countries, think again. I mean, history repeats itself, folks, over and over and over again. Now, that's just one article out of the stack. And it just gets more insane from there on out. And I try to tell my friends and family and people, they go, man, why are you so upset? And my wife said last night, I was sitting there talking to her, and I didn't really yell, but I said, listen to me, there's probably going to be a major war. We got to stop worrying about stupid stuff and get ready. And she said, and I wasn't on drugs, wasn't drinking, she said, I've never seen your eyes, it was a lit room, go almost completely black. She goes, what the hell was that? And I don't know, that's just how mad I got. I don't even know what that means physiologically. But that's the level that I'm personally concerned and upset. Because, my spider sense is broken. I mean, the gauge is so powerful, it's slamming the needle that it's just like stuck over there. And we just got to leave this to God and just pray for peace, folks, because, the Israeli president went over there, and everybody's mad at him for secretly trying to get Ukraine to capitulate. And they're saying he's a traitor and stuff. No, he doesn't want a nuclear war. He's not stupid. And the other leaders don't have the courage, and I'm not getting involved in Israeli politics. A lot of people hate this Israeli leader. I just try to stay out of it. But I'll tell you this, I certainly agree with the transcripts that have been released by NATO, because he told NATO he was going in. He met with Putin. He went and met with the Ukrainian leader. And he said, listen, you're going to lose this war. Russia's going to keep pumping troops in, and Putin has only done surgical strikes so far. So you think you're killing a bunch of his troops. That's because he doesn't want to kill a bunch of civilians, but you're going to make him do it. And so you need to just give up now. We need to make this a buffer zone, because the Israelis are spying on Putin. They know Putin doesn't plan to expand anywhere past this. And if he does, we're going to end up with World War III, like World War II. So that's what's going on, ladies and gentlemen. It's extremely dangerous. Now, I've had a lot of listeners ask me, and I had 3 men in a gas station today, to the clerks, and I guess the owner was there and came out of the back, gas station, grocery store I was in. And they all were asking, well, who's good? Who's bad? Is it Putin? Is it America? Is it Ukraine? Is it the... And I'm like, listen, we need to stop thinking like that. And I kind of held court for 5 minutes. And I said, to the Russians, they're right. And to the Ukrainians that don't want to be under Russian control, they're right. But it's where Russia was created. Until Lenin gave it away and made it its own country, for 1,000 years it had been Russia. It's where Russia started. Well, it's like saying, is Plymouth Rock part of America? Well, yeah, since the country was a colony, since it was found, since the first settlers landed 400, 500 years ago, 400 something years ago. So when I say those things, it doesn't mean I agree with Putin invading. It doesn't mean I'm for this war. I'm simply saying you've got to address it from a perspective of why this is going on, and why did NATO tell them, go ahead and give up your nukes to Russia? Well, because Europe didn't want another country with nukes. But then they gave up their nukes, and then NATO started playing games with them and giving them weapons and encouraging them for more than a decade to have a war with Russia and completely break away. And so now a tug of war has begun with Russia, and this is very important. Please listen to me on this. If you go back and you see the clips, Tucker Carlson did a great job of this, because I remembered all this, but I hadn't thought to put it together. He did a great job like Tuesday or Wednesday, where he went in his monologue and got clips going back a decade saying Russia's our enemy, and we're going to have a war with Russia over Ukraine, and we've got to give weapons to Ukraine, and we've got to overthrow the Russian-backed president. That was 8 years ago. And just the whole history of that, not just 3-4 years ago, Lindsey Graham saying, we got to fight them over there and sit over here, and they're our enemy, and we need to fund missile attacks on the Russian border, and Adam Schiff and all the rest of it. That's 2, 3, 4, 5 years ago. You go back a decade ago, George Soros and them have been in there planning this and getting this ready for a tug of war, like a dog. Oh, you want this toy? You can't have it, can't have it, can't have it. And that's why I said, because I thought Putin would be smarter than this 3 weeks ago, I got this wrong. I get things wrong occasionally. We all do. I said, I think if he does invade, he's just going to take the breakaway region in the east that's been under attack. And then once the Russians went in, the Russians said, well, the Ukrainians are firing back at us. Well, that's the classic way these wars expand. And so the same thing is going to happen when the Russians start blowing up these supply lines of heavy weapons rolling in out of Poland. And if you're Russia, that's the default position when you're getting slaughtered with high-tech weapons. So Putin can't pull out now. It's not just a face-saving issue, because now Ukraine will become super militarized against Russia. And he can't let more weapons come in, and he's not going to win this war without taking the gloves off. And you know, when Colonel McGregor and others say that, people go, oh, he wants them to take the gloves off. No, he's giving you a real play-by-play of what's going on from the perspective of the, quote, enemy. See, real stuff in the real world, I'm talking to leftists out there who don't know this, is about looking at the perspective of other people. That's how you win wars, is you get inside the enemy's head. You think like they do. You understand what they're going to do. And I'm not saying the Russians are the enemy. I'm saying from the perspective of NATO or from Colonel McGregor when he's on Tucker talking about it. So here's the bottom line. And I don't think you need me to tell you this. I think everybody knows this. This is going to get a lot worse. And it's a pissing contest. And nobody ever said that, that the Slavs in a war are wimps. They're just going to keep killing each other. So it's like the Nazis. It's killed over 15 million troops trying to subdue Russia. 15 million people, folks. 15 million of the German losses fighting the Russians. The Nazis killed 20 plus million Russians. So if you think it's in the Russian DNA to give up, or it's in the Ukrainian DNA to give up, they're the ones that stopped the Muslims and all the rest of the groups invading. If you think it's going to happen, no, they're just going to keep killing each other and killing each other and killing each other in a mindless, idiotic pissing contest. And basically NATO put two pit bulls in a pit together, and then you wonder why they're killing each other. So I don't want America to stick its hand down in the middle of that, get it chewed off. But then also I'm even more pissed off at the globalists who run my country and who want to occupy Russia the same way and who have occupied Ukraine, who are doing this to our world. So on the hierarchy of bad guys here, the Eastern establishment, who all want to be powerful and in control, and all the inbred blue bloods, almost every damn one of them is a pedophile or worse. I mean, you're talking 10th, 20 generation wealth, scum unsurpassed. Just those of you that aren't evil, just you can't even imagine these people. I mean, they are unbelievable. And what Satan hates is the family and the man and the woman and the children. And you look at people like Kissinger, and you look at people like Soros, they're just gophers for people like David Rockefeller. And the Rothschilds, who almost every time they pose for a photo, it's with devil worshiper stuff. I mean, look at this guy. This is the guy that supplies children to British prime ministers and to Prince Charles, on record. And again, he likes to kill them and then have sex with them. Him and that particular Lord. Look it up for yourself. You want to know about it? I know the name. This is unbelievable. Yeah, that's the high priestess of Aleister Crowleyism. I mean, look at that arrogant, ugly thing. They all worship her because she's supposedly so evil. The devil loves her so much. What a joke. And then you've got Rothschild right there, and they're posing behind a famous painting of what Lucifer summoning his legions. Yeah, scroll up if you can. Show them that. All right, yeah, I said I'd stop preaching. Hey, we gotten through 2 articles, okay? So I'm doing my best here. So, nobody wants a nuclear war except the really twisted globalists, and even most of their ranks don't want to go there at this point. So why are we in so much danger of it? Because of tit for tats, like the Russians are now saying they're going to do, blowing up convoys and aircraft coming in and doing weapons deliveries, and then it's going to be Russians blow up convoy with Polish, British, German, U.S. drivers. And I know for a fact there are U.S. Special Operations troops in Poland and in Ukraine right now. And they're fighting the little green men, the Russians, who for 8 years have been in a proxy war with NATO forces. And so Putin said, okay, we're losing this proxy war. You've been attacking us. You're shipping weapons in. I'm going to attack you. Under international law, And under what the U.S. would do if Russia was firing artillery, into our border, Russia is allowed to do what they've done. But you see, I don't just say that to say that. I say that because that's historical reference points and something that's very arguable by the Russians. And you look at all the wars by the West and all the terrible things the West has done, and then now it's going to shake its finger at Russia. But then why am I upset by Putin going in there? Because it's a trap, like I said when this started 3 weeks ago. And Putin knows, if I know, that the U.S. has been in there specifically, not just NATO, training stay-behind networks. And that's why they let the Russians come in. That's why they didn't blow up the bridges right away and didn't put out mines and didn't do all that, because they were finally getting what they wanted, the Russians to invade. That's why Putin's finding out this didn't go as fast or as good as he thought it was going to go. And so now what does he do? Escalates. And then what else happens? What else happens? Well, now the West gets to censor everybody. And now it gets to surveil everybody. And now it gets to use its global currency controls and sanction powers. And what they already rolled out with COVID, finish rolling out with this big, long, protracted war now that's going to go on for years. Even if Zelensky leaves, even if they sign some agreement, the stay-behind network, the rebel forces, all of this is going to go on. And then the Russians are going to have to start killing and kidnapping and torturing people to death to try to make them stop. And then that's not going to make the Ukrainians give up. And they're going to fight back just like the Russians would if they were occupied. And it's never going to end. Because, yeah, Ukraine's where Russia started. And, yeah, but people fight with their parents. And people fight with their brothers and sisters. And so they got seduced by NATO. And NATO's in there. And that's just the way it is. And so the same pig-headedness that got Putin to go in is now going to be the same pig-headedness of the Ukrainians, and the globalists are going to sit back and play this like a damn fiddle and take all of our rights and liberties and bankrupt the world economy and blame all of the other great reset supply chain breakdowns of 2 years. That's all a distant memory now. It's all about Vladimir Putin. Oh, and those evil Republicans that supposedly work for him. See how that works? And now we can all be shut down and attacked and lied about even further, and it's just a big, giant mess. Because war is good for tyranny. War is good for monopolies. War is good for corrupt elites. And so I get it. Obviously, Russia's been surrounded. Obviously, Russia's being picked on. Obviously, Russia's been persecuted. Obviously, Russia's reforming and becoming more pro-family and rejecting the leftist poison that was in control of them. Obviously, their enemy, Soros. And Russia had the right policy of cutting its defense spending, going into organic farming, going into energy exploration and scientific exploration, and not getting in a fight. That policy was smart. And now, because they've been messed with so much, Putin finally went in and broke with his policy that it had them so pissed at him that they couldn't trick him into a war. That Vladimir Putin was smart. This Vladimir Putin, I don't know. But I'll tell you this. The Ukrainians are run by a bunch of corrupt people and have been passed around by the Soviets and then passed around by the EU and all the oligarchs, and they've been occupied for 80 years. And so you can't blame them being such a mess. I mean, that country is a mess because of the corruption. And all they know is, are we going to side with NATO because it gives us more stuff up front but gets us into debt so they control us, or do we side with Russia? And, you know, it really comes down to that. The Ukrainians should just try to be neutral, but powerful forces aren't going to let them be neutral. They could be the new Switzerland. They could be the new Ireland. They could be the next big boom state with some good policies, like zero tax and stuff like that, but they're not. Trump went to Kim Jong-un and he said, you could build condos and high-rises and casinos and theme parks all down your coast. You have hundreds of billions of dollars of real estate. Look at Japan, where a 2-bedroom apartment costs $5 million, He goes, you could have the Japanese moving here, everybody. Just free your people, industrialize your country, build some economic zones. Within 10 years, we can have you performing like South Korea. And he said, I want to do it. And Xi Jinping said, no. We'd rather keep you with only a few cities with electricity, with 1 million people starving to death a year, because China doesn't want a prosperous North Korea. And so it'll keep a little demonic joke in there with that horrible, evil military over all those people. The answer is Disneyland. And I don't mean the corrupt leftist Disneyland, but you know what I mean. That's what Ukraine wants to be, as a tourist destination. Ukraine wants to be an industry leader. They want to be a farming leader like they already are. People want land. They want beautiful places to live. It's a gorgeous country. It has gorgeous women. People don't want... The average person doesn't want to fight the Russians or the Ukrainians or anybody else. The average American wants to live in peace. And so does the average person in Ukraine or Russia. But this whole thing has been manipulated into this position. And you know, one of the biggest lies about me is that I say things to make money. Like they had big NPR pieces with this lying lady that wrote this fake book about me with a bunch of disinfo. We've already had it looked over by lawyers. And it says, Jones made $150 million in the last 5-6 years or whatever it is. It's not true. On Sandy Hook. Hardly ever even talked about it. Don't make money off a story. But they just say, he lies for money. Really, I tell the truth, and then the people tune in, and that generates the money to have an independent operation. The truth is what sells, not lies. So why would I lie for money? That's you guys. That's what you do. You write a book about Sandy Hook and then talk about how I make money off Sandy Hook while you live off of it. And the reason I raise that is it's the same thing. When 9/11 happened, it was clearly an inside job. I'm not saying radical Muslims don't exist. I'm not saying that, no, but there was a globalist operation that bare minimum stood down. Then planning passports and cover-ups and blowing up Building 7. You know the story. You know the history. I was on over 140 radio stations, or 139, when that happened. And within 3 weeks of me saying it's an inside job, we were down to 30-something stations. And Ted Anderson stood behind me, and his program director quit over it. And just said, what have you done? We gave you a job. Within 4 years, you had 130-something stations. They were making millions of dollars. And we had big stations, 100,000 watt FMs, 50,000 watt AMs. I mean, it was a big hit. And Ted said, if you want to do this, you think you're right, because they never told me what to say before. Go ahead, Alex. And I lost 100 affiliates. Now, is that somebody that lies about things for money? No, I'm Tomorrow's News Today. I want to get it right. But obviously, you don't need to believe me. You see that. You know that. But that's my point on this Russia thing. We know Biden's a liar. We know Soros is evil. We know this is all bad. We know Russia's been ganged up on. We know the leftists put the Bolsheviks in for 80 years and fed off the Russians. We know they hate the Russians now because they're getting free from the New World Order. Russia is an autocratic system. And so people think, well, just get behind Russia. America's the one that invades all these countries. America's the one that works for the New World Order. Why aren't we for Putin? And I can tell you, my listeners are pissed off at me because I'm like, this is a bad thing. Putin just bit off more than he can chew. And he may be giving them a soft touch right now, but he's going to have to crush and level cities like the U.S. does if you're actually going to take over a group that's opposing you. And then they're going to lure us into a war, and I'm not scared to die, but I don't want to die for bull. So the United States is wrong, NATO's wrong, and Putin's wrong, and the Ukrainians are wrong.
I apologize for any of
and Hollywood and that, all the censored leftists and that stupid Rob Reiner, running around always lying about me and saying censor me and promoting war, meathead. That pisses me off because Rob Reiner's made some good movies, but he's an anti-American sack of garbage.
As you might have guessed, I still can't move.
Hey, you send your little daughter off to fight in Ukraine. They're taking people. You get your fat ass on an airplane, and you go fight the Russians. But you stop calling for no-fly zones and bombing Russian convoys, you piece of garbage.
Dee was telling me that he discovered the mark of the...
You know, I said, I'm going to, hypothetically, would never hurt Rob Reiner. But I said, you know, I ought to come to your house and break your nose for trying to get us in World War III. I'd probably get arrested. No, but Rob Reiner and all these leftists, you know, they're all over the place. We need war, bomb the Russians, let's have nuclear war. I got all these crazy clips of leftists talking like that. It's like, shut up! Stop it!
So what can I do for
you dumbass?
with a man, you know.
We do not need nuclear war. We do not need a giant war on the continent of Europe. We do not need a draft. We do not need millions of dead people. But if you got a big heart-on for the Russians, brother, you go over there, they'll give you an RPG, and you can go find a Russian tank, okay? Because here's what's happening with the Russians. At first, they didn't want to kill Ukrainians. They were just trying to get military targets. Now that they're getting killed, they're getting pissed. They're starting to go ahead and just slaughter people. And Putin's really got a psychology about him. Maybe he's not stupid. Maybe he wants a big battle of the gods, Guter Damarung. Maybe he wants Flight of the Valkyries. Maybe he wants a war with NATO. I mean, that's where this is going. So for everybody out there that is on the pro-Putin side, okay, see where this gets us. See where this gets us. Let's just see where this gets us. Because we have godlike power, but we're not God. We got all these thousands of nuclear bombs and 500 megaton warheads. You know, a 500 megaton warhead detonated at 5,000, 3,000 feet above Dallas, Texas, will level every structure and burn the whole city down and kill a couple million people. Just like that. Look up how big Hiroshima and Nagasaki bombs were. They were 1/100th of the average warhead, and there are warheads 1,000 times more powerful than the bombs dropped on Hiroshima and Nagasaki. Little boy and fat man. Because believe me, folks, we have this normalcy bias that, oh, we haven't been in a nuclear war, and oh, we watch Netflix, and oh, Russia's far away. No, Russia's 20 minutes away with an ICBM attack from Russia. Los Angeles is 1 minute away from a sea-launched cruise missile. All right, let me do this. Let's take another break. I've only covered 2 stories. This is bad, I know. And I'm going to just race through them now, and then I got to start getting to the clips. And you know what? I love my children, and I don't want to die. But I can see justice. I can see God's perspective. I'm not going to say I see what God thinks, but I can get a good idea that if we let hundreds of millions of people starve to death because of the COVID lockdowns and then blame it on Russia, what does it matter if I die with an H-bomb going off over my head or some African starves to death for 3 weeks and some dumbass leftist policies who knows full well what they've done as part of it, and I've got to be lectured to how I've got to do everything white liberals tell me because they put on blackface politically and claim they represent black people. I mean, seriously. It's disgusting. Hundreds of millions are going to starve to death now. Already over 40 million people, last time we got numbers, starved to death from the IMF, World Bank, UN lockdowns, where they ordered Latin American and African and Asian countries to lock people in their houses, and they starved to death. There ain't no food delivery. All that stuff you see with the UN is PR. The UN runs the killing. But every stupid Miss America and every dumbass model talks about UNICEF and raising money for the UN because they get told to do that or they don't get government and corporate contracts. When you see Hollywood promoting something, you should do the opposite. And I know that's what you've done because that's usually the right thing to do. But when you see Hollywood saying, let's have a nuclear war, we should do the opposite, right? But that doesn't mean go support Putin. And it doesn't mean you're against Russia. It doesn't mean, what we're doing now doesn't really matter unless we understand this. We need Zelensky and we need the Ukrainians to get this. And you're not going to convince them by going, Putin good, Russian good, you bad. But explaining how they're being used by pawns, and this is a larger manipulation and needs to stop, like the Israeli Prime Minister just said. I got that article highlighted right here. Go read what he said. And it's true, because he doesn't want a nuclear war, which I think is a really good idea. Don't you think that? Because Israel's like the 5th largest nuclear power in the world. So that's where I stand on the Russia situation. And if any other country had done 1/10 of what we've done to the Russians, we would have already attacked them. So, but that doesn't mean I support what Putin did. Just because I understand why they did it does not mean I support it, because you cannot march into a trap. Now, maybe I'll be proven wrong, but we'll be taking calls tomorrow night, 4 to 6 p.m. In fact, I intend to just take calls tomorrow. I'm not going to pontificate tomorrow. 4 to 6 p.m., we'll take a lot of calls. Yeah, they're reportedly shipping in 100,000. Put that back on screen for viewers, please. 100,000 Polish, that's the Polish government made in case the Russians ever invaded. They made 100,000 after the Cold War of a compact RPG that'll shoot through 2 inches of steel. Got a big armor-piercing rod in the middle of it. Tank killer. And then after it goes through, it explodes. And they shoot a big tree and just blows it to bits. And it's disposable. And it only weighs 15 pounds. And you can put 2 or 3 of those in a backpack, and one man can take out 3 tanks. High explosive with an armor-piercing rod in it. People say, well, why is it so skinny? It doesn't look like RPGs from Rambo. Those are explosive RPGs that kill people with explosion and shrapnel. That's an armor-piercing anti-tank weapon. So you're in a ditch and 3 tanks are rolling up. One man can take out all 3 tanks. That shoots through the tank and blows up on the inside with a couple pounds of plastic explosive in it. Now, you think the Russians are going to start bombing everything coming in out of Poland? Yeah. And who do you think is there giving it to them? NATO and the U.S. military. So we're at war with Russia right now. What do you think the Russians are going to do with 100,000 anti-tank missiles being handed out like lollipops? And that's why Russia went in there to begin with, because U.S. Special Forces, for at least 5 years, have been in the east of Ukraine helping, training those Ukrainian militias to kill the Russian compatriots, Confederates, people that are pro-Russia, who've been there for dozens of generations. I'm gonna stop getting into it. It's just unbelievable. I mean, it's a frickin' giant modern war going on right now that is getting bigger and bigger and worse in a giant black hole. I'm gonna take another break. I'm gonna come back, and I said I'm gonna nail it. I got to some important points, but you can see how I get lost in all this because there's just so much. But we'll see if I can get it done when we come back. Stay with us. You know, I get frustrated because in the last hour plus we've covered a lot of key information, a lot of facets, a lot of history, a lot of things going on here, and people need that knowledge. I know most of you probably have more knowledge than I do on these subjects to understand things, but instead people just like, no, I'm for the Dallas Cowboys or I'm for the Cincinnati Bengals. Or because it makes it easy. Like, hey, I'm for America and Ukrainians, hey. Or, you know, I'm sick of the West expansion. I'm for Putin. The globalists are winning because they're getting the war they want. The only way to win the game is not to play, to quote the 1983 movie War Games. So let me hit the big points right now. So I've already hit some major ones and set the table for where we are and why this is radically cascading and escalating very, very quickly. And this follows a World War I, World War II model just to a T. I mean, the similarities are just stunning. Because once humans start killing each other, and once you've got evenly matched groups, it escalates. Especially when you're dealing with the types of groups we've got going on here. I mean, this is like a disturbance, family violence disturbance or something. This is an inner Slavic/Germanic war that's been going on for 1,000 years with Germanic and Slavic groups intermarrying and killing each other and slaughtering, and then the Muslims come, so they get together and go kill them, and then they go back to killing each other. So this has been going on for 1,000+ years, and you first have to understand that. And you have to understand that this is a jealousy thing. I mean, Russia sees its hottest chick, its big mama, it's his mama being drug off to be married to George Soros, and they went crazy. And I understand that, but that's what wars are. They're crazy. And at the end of the day, it's always about genetic conquest. And Russia sees its genetic mama being taken away from it, and George Soros poking and laughing and snickering on TV. Oh, I'm beating Russia. It's my empire. It's mine now. And it just looks to me like the Russians got manipulated into that. But that's why this is so violent, is it's sexual, ladies and gentlemen. And that's the essence of why people want wars, is because that's how the genetics are spread. And that's why, and humans, once the resources run out, this is an instinct we have that we have to conquer, or we're going to destroy ourselves. And by the way, if you're a new listener, or the Young Turks make a joke about what I just said, in real war psychology level, highest level PhD stuff, they all teach this, okay? The general public doesn't know this stuff, but this is really how it all works. So this is like a jealous son, not one watching his mother drug off and gang raped, basically. But the gang raping of Ukraine by the globalists was, again, to get Russia to come into the arena, and Russia took the bait. So it doesn't matter if emotionally you can side with Russia and see why Russia did it. It's not good. Then you ask, well, then what happens? Well, the globalists wanted a war there because they can't fix things politically. We're winning politically. Populist movements from Russia to the United States to Brazil are coming together, and we know what's going on. And that scares the hell out of the globalists. So let's talk about it. Here's the bad news. And there's 1,000 facets to this, and my frustration point is I don't want to make it too complex because it just goes on too long, but also don't want to dumb it down. But I think you all know what I'm about to say because you're smart as I am, or smarter. This is a propaganda war, and we've already seen extreme lies out of the Ukrainian puppets and the rest of it that are just over the top ridiculous. And the censorship that comes with that to keep people from learning about it because they want to expand the war. The globalists do. And so you've already heard, oh, the Russians attacked a nuclear reactor. Oh, they attacked another one, but then that was all lies. And then, oh, they killed everybody at the Snake Island, and oh, the ghost of Kiev and all this other stuff. None of it was real. And then you see now the pre-programming all over the news, and Biden saying it's a red line. If they use chemical weapons, we're going to have to basically get involved. And what's even scarier is Biden and others are having to say, but that doesn't mean our boots on the ground, because they know a bunch of commanders and a bunch of other people are ready to go in. And all it's going to take is one mistake, and this thing could turn into a nuclear war. You know what happened yesterday, right? India shot a ballistic missile, an intermediate range missile, by accident, because they were practicing with their satellites and stuff. You know, they got satellites too, targeting Pakistani military bases. And then they fired one because they got so many of them. I mean, like most analysts that I respect, in fact, most analysts, period, that are real analysts, believe World War III would start in one place or one other place, two places. But the first one is Pakistan and India. That's the number one kickoff for nuclear war. Number two is Ukraine and all the war games. And number three is the South China Sea in China. And now Pakistan and India are voting together to not sanction Russia because they're tired of the imperialism, as they call it. They're not communists, but they're saying, like, we're sick of you telling us what to do. We're mortal enemies, but did the UN come in and say India was wrong when they annexed Kashmir 2 years ago? The answer is no. And India sure as hell isn't going to sit there. They get what Russia's doing. Kashmir's always been part of India, got taken away by Muslims. They're taking it back. The Indians are like, that makes sense. Russia voted for us when we took Kashmir. And I'm not on a side. I know Muslims have been there for hundreds of years too. But they were pushing the Hindus around, so the Hindus got tired of it. And see, that's the argument. And that's probably why Putin did this. He said, hey, look at Kashmir. Look at Modi. He went in there in a couple weeks, kicked the Muslims out. They didn't kick them out, but kicked their government out. So see, I could keep geopolitically going on for hours about all this, but let me just go over these headlines here. But here's the big takeaway. Here's the big pre-programming I see, and here's what I'm really worried about. Because, again, the globalists talk to us like we have IQs below room temperature. So the pre-programming is completely clear. They've telegraphed what they're going to do, and you know what it is. They already said the Russians attacked nuclear plants. It wasn't real. They already did a bunch of other lies. Well, now they're saying the Russians, they're getting intelligence that the Russians are going to launch a chemical attack. And they're getting intelligence they're going to launch a radiological attack. And they're getting intelligence they're going to launch a biological attack. And just unpacking those three things, we could talk for 2 hours. I'm sure you've got your own points, but think about it. What is in Ukraine right now? A bunch of old fissile material from nuclear weapons that got rattled and didn't get handed to the Russians at the fall of the Soviet Union, and then afterwards, 20 years ago. And there's all those bioweapon labs the Russians had built that got taken over by Ukraine and then by the United States and NATO that they don't want us talking about. And they're now saying the Russians are going to capture those and release bioweapons. Why would you do that? Unless you're the IMF World Bank that want to implode the world economy and bring in a surveillance system. The Russians didn't want that. No, that helps the Chinese and the globalists, not the Russians. So there's just a few of the data points. Here's why you got to be concerned. They are pre-programming everyone that it's imminent that there's going to be a giant chemical, biological, radiological, or even nuclear event from the Russians. And then it won't matter because the Russian media is all being cut off. All the TV channels, all the internet channels, Facebook, Instagram, Twitter, YouTube, state-run media, private Russian media, media that just covers what Russians are saying. They want us taken off just because we just show you what they're saying, and that's what you're supposed to do. Like, hey, they're saying this, they're saying that. You know, in World War II, they played Hitler's speeches on the radio. And they had newsreels. Look what this son of a bitch is saying. Hear the whole thing. Because we were a free country compared to them. You couldn't hear American broadcasts in Germany. They would execute you if they caught you. See? But they're like, oh, anybody that shows, in fact, if you even show a Putin speech, you should be taken offline. Wow. And Oliver Stone's movies are being taken down because he predicted all this. And Trump's latest interview where he says, I threatened to nuke Russia and Putin's wrong. They don't want you knowing Trump said that. They're saying Trump's pro-Putin. So they took that down and it had 5 million views on the Full Send podcast, who are awesome guys. So that's the stuff bouncing around in my head. And I mean, I'll tell you, I'm beyond pissed off. I mean, I'm just sick at my stomach of leftists and how they're pro-censorship, pro-war, pro-evil, pro-idiocy. They're corporate whores that run around and say because They got rainbow flags on their house, as if I care what they're doing in their bedroom, that I'm supposed to bow down to their warmongering and their censoring and their sexualization of children. And I'm just done. I'm done. You know, there was a great philosopher, some say the greatest, Aristotle. He said, tolerance and apathy are the last virtues of a dying society. And you know, he's right. I was more of a liberal when I was younger, and I am more of a real classic stoic conservative now, because you know why? I'm tolerant of people. I mean, do whatever you want to yourself, except this. What you learn is when you're tolerant of these weak, sick, crazy people, these pedophiles, I don't mean I'm tolerant of that, you know what I mean? When you're tolerant of the whole leftist culture, they come and they're not tolerant of you. You understand? You tolerate their garbage, their weakness, their laziness, their stupidness, their temper tantrums, all of it, and then you wake up in a gulag working for them. You wake up their slave. So no, I will not be tolerant of you. Stay away from my children. I will not be tolerant of anything you do. I will stop projecting my goodness onto you while you lecture me how you're high and mighty and how you're smart when you're a lazy dumbass. Man, I saw a Young Turks clip today. I rarely watch what they have to say about us, but I was driving in the car, so I listened to it. Driving to work today. And he's like, the head turd, is the head Young Turds up there, Sink Uger, Chunky, whatever his name is. I can't pronounce his name. The point is the guy that runs the organization that has a fascist, anti-Christian name, the Young Turks that killed over 1.5 million Armenians, a Islamic militia that killed 1.5 million Christians. That's what he's named after. He thinks we're too dumb to see it. He goes, well, what's wrong with gay frogs? Why shouldn't we have them? Who cares if the frogs are gay? And then he talks about, because we're intellectual. He actually says, we're intellectual, we're smart, we know science. Now unpack what's wrong with gay frogs. Why? Because he goes, okay, the frogs are turning gay. Why? So I'm right about that. It's good. No. There'll be fossils, it'll be the only frogs of species where they all start having sex with the other males, because males don't have babies together. And the atrazine does similar things like lower sperm counts, makes smaller genitals in utero. And you can take carp, we've got some in a lake my dad's got, and when they're eggs, you can put a few drops of a chemical in that's similar to atrazine, and all of the males don't develop and just become females. Just their male genetics don't develop when they're basically a little larva. Couple drops. It's the same thing with us. It just does it in the brain. And by the way, people say, oh, it's some of the Christian groups that aren't really, I'm not saying they're not Christian, but that they think they know all the science, whatever, they don't actually research it. They go, oh, being gay is not natural. Why, when people aren't just born like that. Yeah, they are. When you put chemicals in there, when the brain development becomes more female and the genitals shrivel up, and now more and more boys are being born with both, it's called being a mutant. And yeah, they're born that way. And so I don't hate a man who's basically is asexual. Because humans are more complex than a fish. But the way it works is it basically makes the brain develop more female, the genitals, all of it, the entire genetic traits. The bones are smaller, blood volume smaller, muscles are smaller. They're girls, folks. And then when that whole process is happening with the chemicals, we're like, well, all these little boys are all like girls now. Let's make them girls, see? And finish the sterilization process. Because even though their sperm count's lower by 98%, they might still become a man and get a girl pregnant. So let's chop that sucker off. And that's a huge program. They've got programs to sterilize fire ants by making the fire ants gay. The male fire ants stop getting her pregnant. The queen. Just nobody wants to have sex with the queen anymore. And Sink's like, why don't you want to make the fire ants gay? That's kind of cool. Why, look, a little rainbow flag on them. It's science. They're attacking us. So what's wrong with gay frogs, Sink?
Hey.
Whatever the hell your name is. Young Turks, young murderers, young Islamic anti-Christian militia. It'd be like naming yourself the Nazis. But it's cute because Americans don't know history, but he does, and it's a fun liberal communist joke. So Sink, what is wrong with the frogs being gay? It's Jeopardy. Extinction? Extinction. 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 That's what's wrong with the frogs being gay. Do I look at two male frogs humping each other in the drainage ditch and go, gosh, I hate those gay people? No, I go scientifically, oh, look, the male frog of that species is about a third the size of the female. Look, those frogs are the same size. Those are two males. See, Sink would think that's really weird to actually know some science. But no, I routinely, to be out on the golf course. I don't play golf, I live by one. And I'll be out walking in the spring, and you'll even look in there, and you'll just see two frogs, same size, humping each other. They're two males, and you walk down by the creek, and you'll see a female sitting there with a male on her back. She's 3 times bigger. Same thing with toads. I mean, I learned that when I was a kid. I'm like, we lived on a golf course then in Dallas. I'm like, Dad, look at that little... He's like, yeah, he's impregnating her. When her eggs are coming out, he puts his semen on it, and you've got the little frog sitting on the big fat female frog. And she's big, like in insects, because she's got to make a bunch of eggs. That's why she's 3-4 times bigger. Oh, but that's science stuff, right? Young Turks, Alex Jones said they're sterilizing the frogs. Yeah, they are, because the stuff they're putting in our food and water on purpose is so frickin' strong that a whole bunch of frog species are now extinct, buddy boy. That's called chemical warfare, jackass. But see, he doesn't even deny that now. He just goes, okay, they are gay. Big deal. It's cute. Oh, it's so cute. All right, I've gotten through 5 articles. Maybe I should just end the broadcast. It's been a good broadcast. And the crews here, we're all prepared. But I mean, it's just, this is what goes on in my head all day long. Because I'm not even mad at the Young Turks, except you got a name of a group that exterminated Christians on purpose and you think it's funny. I mean, it's like, come on, man. You're up there making, you don't know anything. You just know how to suck off the system and screw everybody over, and it makes me sick. Let's do this. I shall not fail. Go to one more break. And I'm going to look at these links and all these articles, and I'm going to decide what I'm going to cover when we come back. But everybody should be having these discussions right now. Your friends, your family, your neighbors, everybody should be really sitting around and saying, why is the sperm count in Europe and in the U.S. down 95% from 1950s levels? Look it up, it's true. And why in Brazil was their sperm count the same until 1998? Oh, they had like a almost 100% sperm count down there, those Brazilians. So did our virile American men. Until they introduced Roundup and other herbicides in the late 90s. And they've got the same number of low sperm count we've got now. Oh, and it gets more fun. Of course it does. Did you know Brazil was like the U.S. before the 1950s and didn't have breast cancer? Like, breast cancer was extremely rare. Now it's everywhere. Because you know they admit glyphosate grows breast cancer, some of the main cancers. You know Brazil now matches us in just the last 20-something years since they had that there. That's right. So you don't got any sperm, and your breasts get eaten off, and you die, and you get put in the grave. Well, that's a fun thing to get, ain't it? Oh, but Alex Jones doesn't know about the science. Alex Jones is that right-winger. He doesn't want us drinking that Roundup. You know them right-wing Nazis, yeah, they're worried about GMO shots and GMO crops and GMO. Yeah, we need to silence that Nazi over there. You know, within another generation, they're estimating that about half the boys in America, no matter what color you are, will have a penis the size of a woman's clitoris from atrazine alone. So if your daddy had a foot-long penis, you're going to have a 2-inch long one, and your son's not going to have one. And I'm not trying to be gross here, folks. I'm getting right down to brass tacks here. Why's your daddy got a Big Johnson and you don't? And why's your son not going to have one? Because of these people, and I've had enough of them. And if we can just get it down to that level and ask the Young Turks, do you want your sons to even have dicks? And his answer will be, no, actually, I think it's great, because I'm a transhumanist. Go to a break. I got to stop. I'm about to go crazy. Just go ahead, and we'll be right back.
Alex Jones is the greatest.
Dude,
he has been so canceled.
Hey, kill it. It's all right. We've already aired this. I'm not going to torture the listeners. Obviously, we got to develop a rhythm here where I come in here and do these commercial-free shows. Then I realize I'm out of control. I'm so angry. And I'm going to just no filter here with how I really feel about all this. And then we can't air the same promo twice in a row. So we got some more goody goods there. I'm sorry I kind of sprung that on you guys. You notice when people used to love me blowing up on air, but I don't do that very often anymore. People don't get that because it's not physically good for me. And I also start getting a little bit of a potty mouth, a little bit nasty. But I mean, that's the truth. And so I have to I'm going to drink a water, be a good boy. I'm going to come back and I'm going to race through every damn one of these articles. If the hair lips the admiral, let's go to it. I want to thank you all for joining us on this live Saturday, March 12th, 2022 transmission. And I have been extremely upset by the war in Ukraine and by the globalists launching the next leg of their depopulation collapse program. But the good news is humanity is waking up really, really fast. So now let me, in the final 20, 30 minutes of the transmission, race through a bunch of clips and news. Let's start from the top here. Russia threatens attack on NATO weapon shipments to Ukraine, legitimate targets. Biden, NATO-Russia conflict would be World War III, warns Kremlin of severe price of chemical weapons used. Obviously getting ready for a false flag. YouTube blocks Ruppli video agency, and the same things happen in Europe. All the major Russian media is being taken down around the world. That is super dangerous because then we don't get the other side and find out even what's happening. That is what authoritarian regimes do, and it's dangerous. UN condemns Meta for allowing hate speech against Russia. Again, Russia's using all the leftist tactics to then complain and demand censorship as well. So when Russia gets censored, it goes, look, they're violating the rules too, censor them. That is not the answer. Oh, look, China censors people, we should too. No, that's not good. Facebook allows threats against Russians as German hospitals deny them treatment. Unbelievable. Soros says United States, European Union must remove Putin and Xi from power before they can destroy our civilization, when he's the one destroying our civilization. Doesn't mean I'm defending Xi or Putin. It means we can't have a nuclear war. How are we supposed to remove them from power when this guy can barely even talk? But he's so used to having power and control, he thinks he can write these checks that we're supposed to cash. Germany sets date for independence from Russian energy supplies. All fossil fuels cut off. They want the next few years from Russia, when they're getting up to 50% of their power from Russia. That's the feudalism, folks. You vote. Do you trust Kamala Harris on the world stage? All the clips of her not even knowing what planet she's on. And that ties into this report right here. The former head White House doctor for 4 administrations demands Biden resign now. He doesn't know what's going on in Ukraine. He needs to resign before our country suffers more, says Dr. Jackson. And I totally agree. Democrats need a war with Russia to survive. It will cause millions of deaths, but they are evil enough to do it. Jim Hoft is absolutely right with an article he wrote. And I want to say something. A lot of Republicans are like, hey, Joe Biden being a total moron has turned everybody against the Democrats, and there's going to be a super political realignment that's already happened. It's going to be 10 times bigger, and so this is great. Isn't he a joke? Isn't it wonderful? No, they might have a nuclear war. Yeah, I don't like the Democrats. Yeah, we need to stop their policies. But no, you don't want a bunch of evil people who aren't accountable programming him and Kamala Harris and with the outcomes we're going to get there. This is dangerous. Biden needs to step down. And I know they always had a plan to replace him with somebody else, and this is all part of it, but it doesn't matter. At this point, we cannot have Joe Biden up there. It's too dangerous. This is out of control. Look, I just want to live. I just want to have a future. I just don't want to have a nuclear war. Russia threatens to leave U.S. astronaut and abandoned space station. See, that's dumb by the Russians. They should be Christ-like and say, we loved our International Space Station and the idea of working together and having peace. And we want to, do the arms treaties. We want to come to the table. We want an emergency peace summit right now with world leaders. And we also are going to send our rocket up, and we're going to get the American out. That makes Russia look good, look like the good guys. But no, Russia's all in war mode, so they do another dumbass thing. And people are like, well, they're sanctioning us. That's the perfect type of story to bring people together. The sanctions are only going to hurt the people. They're not going to hurt Biden or Vladimir Putin. Joe Biden rages, I'm sick of Americans blaming me for inflation, not Vladimir Putin. I've got the clip. It's just completely insane. I already mentioned this. Israeli Prime Minister Bennett pushes Zelensky to surrender to Russia. And what Russia is saying is reasonable after what NATO's done, in my views. It doesn't mean I agree with the invasion. I don't want to be clear, or that's misquoted. But agree to not have weapons, agree to be neutral. That's a good policy for them. And agree to give them that eastern part of Ukraine that has always been part of Russia. And again, you say, well, that'll encourage Putin to invade. Hey, he will have no moral standing and no high ground if this is done. This is not appeasement. There weren't NATO countries in 1940 when Hitler started invading his neighbors. There weren't people starting wars with the Germans. There weren't people, no. And then Hitler started taking lands, Danzig, and then more and more of these areas, these little areas on the borders of other countries, and then that led to World War II. This is not, I am not a Neville Chamberlain. Let's be damn clear about that. I don't want nuclear war. And don't you think Churchill would have had different policies in 1940, 1945 if the world had 50,000 nuclear weapons and giant bioweapon plague labs and drones to deliver it? Yeah. But all these tough guys, man, they see me in the grocery store or the gas station. Alex, we need to get behind war with Russia. You know what? Let's play a clip of that. Let's play some idiot warmongers. Let's play clip 17 and clip 20. Clip 17 and clip 20. Here they are, ladies and gentlemen. Florida Representative Salazar, Maria Salazar, says she supports a no-fly zone, though she doesn't know what it is. And then Kamala Harris ignoring a question about historic inflation. Here it is.
And do you support a no-fly zone in Ukraine?
I support everything that has to do with punishing Vladimir Putin and helping the Ukraine.
Wouldn't that mean direct conventional warfare with Russia?
I don't know what it will mean, but freedom is not free.
So you don't know what a no-fly zone will mean? If you have to shoot down Russian planes, I mean...
Of course!
Conventional war with Russia.
Listen, thank you.
If I can ask you, Madam Vice President, President Biden has said that Americans will feel some pain for the sake of defending freedom and liberty. But there does seem to be no end game in sight. How long should Americans expect? How long should we be bracing for this really sort of
somebody should dub crickets over this
and some unprecedented gas prices?
Sure. In terms of the discussions that the President Johannes and I had, they ranged in subject, including the issue of the Black Sea, and I'll let him explain in more detail as he would like. But we are, again, fully aware and apprised, because we are in constant communication with the President, with his administration here, about the concerns that they have about the entire region and, frankly, the vulnerability. All you have to do is look at the map.
Puppets like this aren't just dangerous. They're there so the globalists can do all this evil stuff, and they never get the blame, and then this idiot gets the blame. Like, she thinks they stole the election to empower a black woman. She's not black. She's Indian. It's all lies. Every bit of it. And, you know, I mentioned the Russians should go up and get our astronaut down because that'd be a good peace move. And here is something good they did. Amid Ukraine war, Russia ready to resume strategic arms reduction talks with the United States. That is something good. Foreign volunteers who join the fight against Russia can get citizenship, Ukraine says. CCP seeks new global order at expense of all others, U.S. Admiral. Yeah, I agree with that. So there's that stack. Went ahead and just got through a lot of that stuff and information right there. Let's continue now, moving into some of the other stacks of information that we have here today for everybody. So here it is. Joe Biden rages. I'm sick of Americans blaming me for inflation, not Vladimir Putin. So let's go ahead and play clip one of the rotting puppet. Here it is.
I'm sick of this stuff. We have to talk about it because the American people think the reason for inflation is government spending more money. Simply not true.
All right, let's go ahead and hear a clip of what Putin, we're not supposed to show you this, we're Russian agents for showing you what another world leader's saying. This is very bad. You're not supposed to hear what he actually says. You're supposed to just get announcements from CNN, but we're naughty. So we're going to actually, naughty little elves, we're going to actually show you what he had to say. Here it is.
Стран, которые предпринимают недружественные шаги в отношении нашей страны, экономики, то мы с вами хорошо знаем. Они призывают своих граждан затянуть пояса, одеваться потеплее и, в общем, указывают на те санкции, которые они вводят против нас, как на причину ухудшения положения у них.
You know, I'm going to go back to my text messages today, but on a stack of Bibles. I'm not mad. It's fun. I send so much stuff through. In fact, I'll show you right now. I sent them the clip of him with the English subtitles. Bigger than Dallas. Not mad about it. I just sent that clip. So I don't know how another clip of him in Russian without the subtitles and an English translator got in there. But hey, it doesn't matter. It's already been said. I covered it. Let me go from memory what he said. He said, you know, there have been some increases in prices because of this conflict and sanctions that they put on us. We would like to be able to sell you our fuel and oil. We're doing a police action in Ukraine to take out the Nazis. I'm just quoting him. And I understand that it's going to make some of the winters colder in Europe and the United States. That is not something I want to do. But we are, you know, forced to this police action because all the attacks and things that we've seen, the things that have gone on. And so that is why we're doing this. But he just said it's ridiculous to claim that we are the ones that triggered all this and what's happened. And he didn't get into the monetization of debt, QE 3, 4, 5, 6. He didn't get into $4 trillion emergency packages and $3 trillion and $2 trillion emergency packages. He didn't get into all of that because I don't need Putin to tell me all that. I know the globalist policies of the private Federal Reserve is causing inflation all over the world, and now this war has given an excuse to the oil companies and the big banks who want to raise prices to go ahead and do it even further, so there is some gouging going on. But I may not have Putin, ladies and gentlemen. But I'll tell you what I do have for you. I don't even like this person, but what he said was true. Clip 13. This will be in English. This is Bill O'Reilly. Here he is.
I told you before the election, you put this man in office, even if you despise Donald Trump, it's going to be bad. I didn't think it would be this bad. No one did. But he is a puppet of the progressive left. And can we now just stop the progressive left? Can we stop? The big thing here is that Joe Biden weakened the infrastructure of the United States by attacking the fossil fuel industry. He did not have to do that. Once he did it, inflation exploded because gas and oil and all the other fossil fuels cost more money because Biden's administration was strangling the industry with regulations, stopping pipelines, making it 10 times harder to operate. All right? So he weakened the fabric of this country. If we had a robust fossil fuel industry, Europe wouldn't need Putin. We could supply all that energy. But Biden tried to destroy it because of the Green New Deal. Can we have a hiatus from that, please, in the face of perhaps a world war? Please? You don't destroy your energy infrastructure until you have another one developed to take its place. Biden doesn't know any of this because he's not smart enough and he's weak and he's a puppet of the progressives. That was the big thing that allowed Putin to make billions and billions of dollars by selling energy to Europe when we could have done it and amass an infrastructure where he says, I don't care what they do to me. I got $600 billion. That's on Biden. And Biden goes, oh, we're going to all have to pay more. Why? Because he used.
So what's wrong with O'Reilly's speech? Nothing. It's all true, except he didn't tell you the rest of the story. It's called the Great Reset, tough guy. It's called the New World Order. It's called the big banks wanting to squeeze the economy and make people poor so they can loan us fiat money to take control of our lives with a social credit score and the universal basic income. That's everything. That's the whole future of our lives. The whole world's going to be about surveillance and control and them manipulating and tracking everything you do. It's all being officially announced. I've got articles everywhere, their press releases saying it. And then the crew asked me during the break, they go, are you all right? You really seem upset. Are you feeling okay? Well, man, they're about to have nuclear war. I mean, they're going to starve a couple 100 million people to death. Yeah, I'm pretty freaked out. Yeah, but this is real. This is not a freaking game to me, man. Like, you understand, like, I like living, right? I like my children not dying. You understand, like, they're turning off. People are already starving to death by the hundreds of millions right now. And you'll never see it on the news. They're dying right now. They're in their freaking houses, starving to death, begging for God to help them, and no one's coming because God tells us to get up and take action, and then we don't do anything. And that paralyzes God. Yeah, God could do it, but God needs us to do it because God's about free will. Yeah, I'm upset. I told you last night, my wife's like, what's wrong with you? You're like really freaked out. I'm like, yeah, I'm really freaked out. I'm really freaked out. I'm really freaked out, you see, because this is real. The supply chain being cut off, the energy grid being cut off is real. And we're going into a time now where we're not going to be on the air. I mean, if we don't back this off, if we don't get sane people to stop the globalists, I mean, we won't be here in 6 months. You won't be here in 6 months. Able to communicate. And I don't tell you how dire the situation is to scare you. I don't think you're the woman that is sitting at the park bench and sees a coyote. And if you just acted like a predator and saw the coyote and did this, it'll go, oh my God, that's a predator looking at me. Just even the way you zero in on it, it'll run for the hills. But if you go, oh God, here, I'm gonna get live on air. I'm gonna do it right out here in the thing. So, here you are, folks. All right, you can hear me over there, it's fine. So, if you see a raccoon, you ain't gotta be afraid of it. Give it a little dog food, all right? But if it attacks you, you do this. See, you don't do this. But that's what everybody does to the left. That's what everybody does. Everybody bows down to them and kisses their ass and acts like they're all powerful and acts like they can't ever be defeated. And so we get a raccoon. I'm not really go crazy today. I'll run in this broadcast now. We're just getting started. We are just started, ladies and gentlemen. So, I'm producing a lot of viral clips today. Wait till next week. But you know what? We're going to stop the New World Order together. We're going to do it. There we go. Elegantly done. That look good down there? Are you not entertained? Huh? Getting what you want now? Can we just roll the raccoon footage, please? Because to me, this is everything, ladies and gentlemen. Like, oh, convicted pedophiles want to have our children sit on their laps at the local school. Stand up to it. Oh no, they might call me homophobic. It's the same thing. Oh, let's just run from the raccoon. Oh. But again, she wants, start it from the beginning, guys. I want to show. She wants to videotape it. It takes that as aggressive. It goes, God, this thing is giant and fat. It must have eaten like 100 people. Because, you know, it sees that as like, damn, that's a really successful predator. That's the fattest, ugliest thing I've ever seen. And it doesn't know what to do. So, I mean, I would be intimidated too, faced by that. And then he chases her. It's like, this thing wants to eat me. She gets in a stance to eat it. And so he's like, hey. And then look. That ought to be like, because everything's digital now. So the new American flag can just be her running from a raccoon. She is hot, though. Look at this. And look now, he's going to protect her. He goes like this to the raccoon. How about you grab it by the neck and bash its brains out? But anyways, this is ridiculous, ladies and gentlemen. And this is what we've become right here. Oh, my God. Okay. Hey, I just got through a couple stacks, didn't I? That was pretty amazing, wasn't it, folks? Pretty amazing. Russia-Ukraine conflict could trigger global food shortages. Yeah, you think we should cover that? Hey, let's cover this. This is pretty interesting right here. World Council for Health slammed WHO's pandemic treaty, threat to sovereignty and inalienable rights. Very important article. And then you read it, it's got links to it. The UN is getting treaties passed by countries to have the UN in full control of everything. And that leads me to Tucker Carlson. Tucker Carlson got attacked a lot about this. It's clip 10. He says Ukraine is the new COVID. And he's absolutely right. That's the next step of the Great Reset. But specifically, who knows, maybe Monday night he'll cover this. The UN is getting governments to sign over everything. You got to read this article. It's on Infowars.com. It describes how the UN ran the lockdowns, the forced injections that caused all the starvation, everything. This is who's coming. It ain't the Russians. Man, I'm telling you, if the Russians were trying to inject me with experimental shots or the Russians were trying to have pedophiles meet with my children, I'd hate the Russians. But the Russians aren't doing any of that. They're just telling NATO you can't take over the country right next door to us, which I still don't support. Let's go to Tucker Carlson.
Tonight, you wonder if looking backward many years from right now, historians will notice the remarkable coincidence in timing. Have you noticed? Here it is. At exactly the moment when the emergency powers they awarded to themselves to fight COVID started to wane, our leaders began pushing for conflict with Russia. And then, on the basis of that conflict, they assumed historic war power. Without even pausing, the Biden administration declared total economic war on a sovereign country. No American had been killed. The United States had not been invaded or attacked. And yet, with no meaningful public debate or congressional authorization, the Biden administration destroyed that country's currency, then removed it from the international banking system that impoverished its population. Then the administration began seizing the property of people affiliated with that country without a trial or due process of any kind, without even bothering to explain exactly what crime they had committed. No American government had ever done anything like that before. If there was one thing the U.S. government long stood for, it was the rule of law.
Now, I'm going to commit another thought crime here, folks, as they're banning Russian transmissions everywhere. I'm going to play another clip of Russians so you can listen to them and decide whether you think they're credible or not, or you can go look at what they said. And again, playing a clip of somebody is not bad. It's what you do when you're in a free society, and that's what we're doing right here. But it's confirmed the bioweapon labs are there. It's confirmed the U.S. set them up under Obama. It's confirmed they had deadly pathogens in them, like bubonic plague and anthrax. And the system is trying to simultaneously say that it doesn't exist and that there are no labs, while there are labs, and the UN said destroy them so the Russians wouldn't get them, and the Russians are about to release the bioweapon any time on you that they stole from our labs. So, but if you talk about it, you're getting banned because that's fake news, even though it's admitted. Here is one of Pooty Poot's agents.
Hundreds of laboratories in about 30 countries in the Middle East, in Africa, Southeast Asia, and also on the perimeter of the former USSR. Placing it under international verification is something that Washington categorically refusing to do. They've blocked, since 2001, a legally binding protocol under the Biological and Toxic Weapons Convention about creating an effective verification mechanism to ensure compliance. And this can but lead us to the thought that the United States have something to hide. I call upon colleagues in these regions to think about what kind of an activity Washington is conducting on their territory, what the consequences for your people will be. I can foresee what the reaction will be from our Western colleagues, who I'm sure are going to be saying now that all of this information is fake and Russian propaganda. But this is self-delusion, and I do not think this will be helpful to the European people in case there are outbreaks in Ukraine or neighboring states with further spread and bringing in their wake dangerous diseases. The risk of this is very real, given the interest that the radical nationalist groups in Ukraine are showing towards the war.
And of course, all that's true. And you know, they talk about Russians being masters of propaganda. We're really lucky they don't have good propagandists, because the truth is the most powerful propaganda. I mean, why doesn't Russia bring up Wuhan lab? Why don't they bring up Fauci? Fauci's involved in those labs on record, funding them. But see, at the higher globalist levels, they're interconnected. In fact, that's this quote right here. It really makes a lot of sense. This is by Paul Valery. War, a massacre of people who don't know each other for the profit of people who know each other but don't massacre each other. Yeah, so you look at Russia, and a lot of Americans either totally hate Russia or they totally think it's like knights in shining armor, the opposite of George Soros and the New World Order. And Russia's just like us, folks. I mean, they're a bunch of hillbillies and stuff. I mean, it's the same stuff going on. A bunch of farmers in the last 100 years, industrialized world. It's the same story. It's just like us. It's ridiculous. And except they've been under 80 years of liberal gang raping. So they're coming out of that. And they are infiltrated to their eyeballs with the left and the Soros people. Now, they're doing a better job of saying no to it, but that's not even because they're some lionized perfect people. They just don't want someone enslaving them, which is good. We need the same attitude, like, stop telling me how to live. Stop telling me what to think. Stop dominating me. You certainly aren't from my country. You are creepy George Soros. All right, I'm going to shut this down soon. I would give the show an A+ today, though I intended to cover all the news. I covered a lot of it. But I'm just so upset about everything that I'm beside myself. So I apologize if any family audience is tuned in, but I don't really apologize, actually. I'm sorry if you were offended, but I'm not sorry in that I explained that atrazine is destroying male fertility and destroying women, giving them cancer. And it's BS, and it's wrong, and it pisses me off. So there. But I'm sorry if sometimes my abrasiveness is a problem, because people recommend the shows to friends and family and strangers, and then they happen to tune in when I'm going crazy. But it doesn't matter. God's going to sort it all out, right? Let's do this. Instead of playing a special report, so I'm going to take one more break, and then I'm going to get in here and knock it out of the park. I want to play a bunch of these clips we haven't gotten to. Let's do clip 6. Putin talks about recruiting volunteers to help in Donbass. We'll also get into Russian tanks destroyed by javelins. That's important to see. We already played the Ukrainians testing the Polish RPG. Let's play the Tucker Carlson, I'm not suicidal. Ooh, yeah. No, actually, let's save that. I want to get into Smollett when we come back. Kudlow, that whole report's good. We already did Bill O'Reilly. Alex Jones seriously compared Don Jr. to MLK. That's hilarious, but we're not going to have time to get to it. And you know what I was saying about that was I saw some Don Jr. speeches a few years ago that were okay, and some parts were good, some were bad, but it was almost endearing that he was messing up some, because, you know, he just stand up for his dad. But I was sitting in there drinking coffee a few weeks ago on the weekend, getting ready for the show, and I watched his whole CPAC speech that he gave. It was like a tape of it, but I watched it, and I was like, man, that was very well delivered, and that got me fired up. And so let me say this. When I said he's a great orator, he's come from not being very good to being really good. And seeing that level of improvement is where I said, you know, oh, Martin Luther King or Joel Osteen. And whether you like Joel Osteen or not, the guy is a very good speaker. And that's what I was saying. And he does it very scientifically. I don't. Martin Luther King does it classic Baptist, Southern Baptist preacher that he sat watching as a child. Incredibly informative and also riveting and just, you know, just powerful. But it's also what he's saying is powerful about our children in the future loving each other and on that mountain. I mean, that's big. But yeah, I mean, I'll say it again. It's not about kissing Don Jr.'s ass. I mean, he's so attacked and lied about. And I'm so tired of people. Young Turks did it. They said, yeah, we think Alex Jones is on cocaine. I hate cocaine. I've taken cocaine maybe 3-4 times. And if you wanted to torture me, actually, you would make me take cocaine. It's the feeling of like when you've been in a really bad fight or something and you're all jacked up on endorphin, but it's after the fight. Or when I've been in a car wreck and rolled a vehicle and, you know, a dude's arms chopped off and blood spraying everywhere, and like, you know, like you're like the police pull up and you're all like, I mean, I can't imagine anyone that would, you could torture me with cocaine. Here's my point. I'm like, oh, you really like this cocaine? Try this when I was a teenager and stuff. And then when I was an adult once, or like at a party, like, come on, this is good cocaine. You're really going to like this. And I'm like, I feel like I'm the most insecure, horrible person. I feel like I'm dying. What the hell is this? But I get it, like insecure people or whatever who aren't real. I mean, maybe that feels good to them. Cocaine ain't good for Alex Jones. Alex Jones don't like the cocaine. I don't like any stimulants other than like coffee. But the point I'm getting at is that I'm defending him. He's not on cocaine. He has a lot of energy. And the reason I made the point, which they didn't show in the Young Turds, is we have Hunter Biden in sex acts with his niece, smoking crack with rotten teeth, rotting little fanglets. And so Hunter Biden is innocent, and Hunter Biden's done nothing, and no one talks about Hunter Biden. And then all over the news, the cokehead Don Jr., who doesn't even drink. Yeah. I mean, those guys are something else. Yeah, Don Jr. doesn't drink. I know people that know him. They go to dinner with him. People that know him for years. He doesn't drink alcohol. I mean, he's not a teetotaler like his dad. He said, yeah, I have a glass of champagne at a wedding or something. The dude is not on drugs. And I don't explain it to the left because they need to understand we have energy. We care. See, we don't need drugs to have energy like you people. Am I ranting today, ladies and gentlemen? But you know, this show is just going to have just gold, just absolute clippage. It's going to be just amazing. Yeah. Oh, look, it's Don Jr. smoking crack. Somebody get it to Stephen Colbert or to the Young Turks. Look at that. There he is before the CPAC, before Don Jr. goes out and gets up on stage. He puts a big old fat, juicy crack rock in the pipe, and he smokes it, ladies and gentlemen. Look at that, a dead soul. That Don Jr., look at that. Oh, there he is on the CPAC stage, whacked out of his mind, all juiced up, all cranked up. Oh, my gosh. Look at him. Folks, this is hacked footage off of the laptop of Don Jr. smoking crack. This is the world premiere, ladies and gentlemen, of Don Jr. smoking crack. And I tried to cover it up, and the Young Turks caught me. It's true. Show it again. Footage of the president's son, Don Jr., smoking crack. Just think about that. And you know, Trump said anybody that smokes crack should get like 50 years in prison. And then his own son, Don Jr., smoking crack, and he says it's fine for him to. Oh, actually, that was Joe Biden said you should get 50-year jail sentence for crack. And he said that, yeah, for your second offense. Third offense is life in prison. First offense is 10 years. Look at that crackhead. There he is. Damn it, you just saw footage, folks. We broke it of him smoking crack. Smoking crack. Look at that crackhead. Don Jr. God almighty. Can you believe we got footage of Don Jr. smoking crack? It's pretty exclusive, folks. I mean, this is going to be all over the news. Like, I mean, you put something out like this, no way they can contain it. Except when Hunter Biden put out hours of video of him having sex with his niece and all the rest of it. They didn't run it anywhere. And they censored it everywhere. And they censored the New York Post when they ran it. I don't know. They look a lot alike. Like they say I'm Bill Hicks. What if Hunter Biden is JFK Jr. and Hunter Biden is Don Jr.? He's all three. Oh, my God. That's JFK Jr. right there. That's Q. He's going to be the president and save us. You think I'm a little bit stressed out right now, folks? Yeah, I'm a little bit stressed out. Because I'm in danger. I just aired tape of Don Jr. smoking crack. And what will Trump do to me? I mean, what have I done? I've just betrayed Trump. You heard the Young Turks. You heard Stephen Colbert. You heard them all. I mean, it's Don Jr. He's on crack. I mean, you just saw the footage. And who is against gay frogs? So what? There won't be any more frogs. So what? They're done. I mean, you know, exactly. Actually, atrazine made the frogs crackheads. See a lot of frogs now going around like a little bit of a crack pipe in their mouth. We'll be right back with a dramatic conclusion, ladies and gentlemen. Stay with us. All right. Well, I'm glad I came here today to do the show, and I'm glad the crew put up with me, and I've been really wild here today. And it's because I think there's about a 60% chance there's going to be a nuclear war, and a lot of us are going to die. And it's really hard for me to sit up here and tell you all this stuff. And I tend to screw off and make jokes and stuff when I'm this upset, because if I really tell you what I think is going to happen, I don't want to be proven right again, and I just want this to stop. And I've looked at every angle. I don't know how to stop it. I don't know how to stop it. I don't know what to do. All I know is that I'm not the enemy of these people like this, if you're a TV viewer. I mean, you know, even 5-6 years ago, I started telling the crew, I said, you know, we make fun of these people, and we get hundreds of millions of views making fun of them. I mean, Owen Schroyer and like Paul Watson used to make fun of leftists. People say Alex Jones is big. Owen Schroyer and Paul Watson would routinely have 20 to 50 million views on a Facebook or Instagram video. And they would just take it down because it was so embarrassing to Hollywood and so embarrassing to everybody. They're like, well, the Super Bowl has 70 million views and Paul Watson has 60, 70 million views this week. I mean, the truth is, the left just kind of like saw Alex Jones. He's the viral one. Get rid of him and no one will see or hear it anymore, when I'm just like one of many. that is showing what they've done to these lost people that I'm not enemies with, but they think showing how anti-human they are and how disconnected they are in their cult, that they're somehow informed, and they're not. They're sad people. And here's the deal. They're very dangerous people. And if you go online, and I do, I'm sure it is just, I got conservatives calling me and liberals and on the street saying, we need to kill the Russians. No, we don't need to kill the Russians. And again, multidimensional thinking. It doesn't mean we support what Putin did, that we don't want this to escalate into a nuclear war. Because just as sure as the sun came up today, and it's going to set tonight, this is escalating very quickly into a full-scale war, and you know it's going to go nuclear. And so if we don't get concerned, and if we don't realize the danger, it's going to happen. So I don't know what you need to do with your telephone, or what you need to do with your email, or whether you need to drive to D.C. and bullhorn the White House. I mean, think about how powerful it is. And I'm nobody. I've gone and bullhorned the White House like 6-7 times. Twice it ended up all over Fox and CNN, and Trump heard what I said and responded to it and had an effect. Jack Dorsey, I didn't even know Jack Dorsey was in there the day I went, and they thought, my God, Jones knows everything. He was talking about Jack Dorsey and censorship while he was in the room, and Trump opened the window up and they talked about it. That's the Holy Spirit, folks. Every time I go somewhere or do something, it's like everything lines up. It's not me. It's like, what is going on here? No matter how stupid I am or how dumb the decisions I make, down the road, it pays off for humanity because it's not me running the show here. I have literally just told God, take me over. And I'm still a clown, and I still have all these problems, but God uses that, and then it's like judo, and it's wild, and God will do that with you. There are people watching and listening to this show that are going to be more effective than I've ever been in the fights against liberty. We are going to defeat the globalists that want to destroy our freedom. And you are going to be effective in those that are attacking our liberty in defeating them. You are going to be the people in the fight against liberty. They're fighting against us. That's what this is. They're fighting against our freedom and our free will. This war is the fight against liberty. I'm always saying about, how do you define this? It's the fight against freedom. It's the fight against you running your own life, running your own mind, having access to make your own decisions. And when you stop rolling over and you stop giving in to their fight against your freedom, is the time they start failing. And they're doing all this and building a world control grid to track what you buy and what you do and guilt you and tell you you're bad and track it and do all this because they're weak. My God, do you see the head of the International Bank of Settlements on TV? Probably weighs 800 pounds. I'm not against the fact he's fat. I'm a little overweight too. The point is he's this big fat idiot. And he's like, we're going to track you and control everything you do. And the money will watch you. It good. We take over now. No! I will not be ruled by you big fat demonic hedgehogs anymore. I mean, seriously, man. You don't think we're going to be monitoring what that jerk buys? He'll be exempt from everything he does to us. Let me just do this. The crew's done a great job. And I think I've said everything I need to say here. I got a few more clips I want to get to, and then we'll shut this down, and then I'm going to be a good boy. Maybe. And come back tomorrow night and take calls. But I mean, I'm legitimately in chimpanzee mode at this point. I mean, I'm watching humanity march off the edge of a cliff for no good reason. And I cannot put up with this anymore. And I don't know what I'm supposed to do. I mean, why do the young Turks think it's cute that the amphibian life's all become sterilized? It's like, that's really good. Well, you know, I mean, do I need to explain? He has a talking point. He follows an order. Well, what if that order is to destroy your own future? You don't. But you see, I'm doing this so long that it made the thing unplug. And it's no big deal. Like if my head gets blown off next week by some enemy, we're not going to shut things down around here. We're going to keep doing it. We're going to stay on the air. See how that works? So before we get to that Tucker clip we just played, I want to go to this clip because I mentioned it. how disgusting is it that we're not supposed to question mass shootings or wars or the ghost of Kiev or Snake Island, or the Russians blew up the Chernobyl reactor, or then the next day they blew up another reactor, which didn't happen. You know, again, I'm not riding the propaganda of the Russians. I'm just not believing our own propaganda because these people lie to me so much. And it's very disconcerting that our establishment's a bunch of pedophile liars, and then we can't even engage foreign countries because our own establishment can't be trusted. And so Jussie Smollett, I'm going to play this clip. Tucker says, again, he's not suicidal, meaning Jussie Smollett. And Jussie Smollett caught red-handed, all the witnesses, the emails, the text messages. I mean, a little note to folks, not that I commit crimes, I don't, but I've studied criminology. If you're going to commit crimes, don't send text messages, don't send emails, don't have meetings about it. Okay, you go get the bleach, you go get the rope, and you're gonna stage your attack on me. I mean, it's called an open and closed case. And then, what happens, ladies and gentlemen? Well, Mr. Smollett, as famous comics have called him, says, I am innocent and I'm not suicidal, when he's being sent for 150 days in the Chicago jail. So, convicted of staging a racial false flag, here it is.
Okay? I am not suicidal. I am innocent, and I am not suicidal. If I did this, then it means that I stuck my fist in the fears of black Americans in this country for over 400 years and the fears of the LGBTQ community. Your Honor, I respect you, and I respect the jury, but I did not do this. And I am not suicidal. And if anything happens to me when I go in there, I did not do it to myself. And you must all know that. I respect you, Your Honor. I respect your decision. Jail time. I am not suicidal.
Okay. Man, you talk about arrogant and full of crap. Sorry, I conflated the two clips. That's him. Tucker talked about not being suicidal in Ukraine. That's another clip, so let's go ahead and roll that one.
In fact, the U.S. Embassy in Kiev has acknowledged joint American and Ukrainian research on other pathogens, such as hemorrhagic fever virus. Apparently, there's a lot of this going on in Ukraine, funded by the United States. Did you know that? Why Ukraine? We don't know. We can only guess. We do know that in 2010, the U.S. government helped fund construction of a brand new Level 3 biolab in Odessa, Ukraine. The purpose of that lab was not to eliminate or secure aging Soviet weapons. No. That lab was designed for research on new and, quote, especially dangerous pathogens in Ukraine, the poorest country in Europe. Again, not a hotbed of biomedical research. Why Ukraine? We don't know. Someone should find out.
Remember the anthrax attacks right after 9/11? They were incredibly terrifying because of how weaponized they were. First, the government said it was from Al-Qaeda, then they said it was from Saddam Hussein. In 2008, they said, we solved the case. Actually, it came from a U.S. Army lab, from an infectious disease specialist under the auspices of Tony Fauci, a scientist who cultivated these weaponized strains of anthrax and deployed them on U.S. soil. We know they did the same thing with the coronavirus, where they manipulated the coronavirus to become more lethal and more contagious, unless you wanted to be provocative toward the Russians.
Do you support a no-fly zone in Ukraine?
I support everything that has to do with punishing Vladimir Putin and helping the Ukraine.
Wouldn't that mean direct conventional warfare with Russia?
I don't know what it will mean, but freedom is not free.
So you don't know what a no-fly zone will mean. If you have to shoot down Russian planes, I mean.
Of course.
I am not suicidal. Stop laughing about black. I am not suicidal.
So Jussie Smollett is worried he's going to get Epsteined while in jail. Did he offend Hillary Clinton somehow? Not that we know of. Econ 101. Everyone who looks at the United States realizes that if the rest of the world were to stop buying U.S. debt, the United States would grind to a halt.
This is good. I send all this stuff on, it all gets mixed together. It's all fun. I'm going to call it a day. Great job to the crew. I mean, I'm just going to say this briefly. We need to pray for peace. And we need to really understand that the big winners from this are the big banks and the globalists that want a cashless society, that want to be able to censor and shut down anybody they want. And they're now using the Russians. First, it was unvaccinated and, everybody's guilty. Everybody you know, is a problem. Everybody's a white supremacist. Everybody's a potential virus carrier. Now everybody's a Russian agent. You get where this is going, and it's because we have a very decadent, inbred ruling class that is afraid to let humanity have freedom and innovate. They just want to dumb people down and depopulate, sterilize, and dumb down. And it's going to destroy everybody in the process. The globalists need to get the memo. You're not going to destroy us and get out of this yourselves either. That's how this works. You kill me, I kill you. You understand? Like, we're already way ahead of you. Your plan's exposed. People get wise to your plans very, very quickly now. You're not going to get away with this, folks. I mean, you know, the globalists are not going to get away with this. And so I understand, like, your top people are Kamala Harris now, and you folks are kind of dim, and you live in high rises and never walked in a field, and, you know, you're busy doing whatever it is you do all day, raping kids or whatever, but you're not going to get away with what you're doing if you keep it up. 2 points. We are listener supported, and we are only here because of you. And we cannot stay on air unless you support us. So every day is precious. Every day that you spread the word about what we do is key. Separately, you don't have to worry the show's a train wreck sometimes. People like real stuff. And it doesn't get more real than what we do here. No teleprompters around here. And then separately, we're going to have to end this sale by Monday because we're going to sell out of it. 50% off X3, the deep earth crystal iodine, with the other 2 types of iodine for your immune system, your body, and so much more. X3, 50% off. We also have Winter Sun, super high quality, highest rated vitamin D3 with vitamin K for immune system and every cellular function. Take it out of the tongue. It's 50% off at InfoWarsStore.com. And again, I want to thank you all for your support. And we have this baby right here. Now, I don't take cocaine. I don't like cocaine. But sometimes I get really exhausted, and I've got more meetings and things to go to, and I don't want a coffee high that makes me jittery and not be able to sleep. And that's when I turn to Brain Force Ultra. And I would only take about a third of a dropper. And what I love about it is that you take it under your tongue. It tastes really good in my view, a weird flavor. And this is cold pressed herbs and compounds, and it hits in 15 minutes. It hits in 15 minutes, and it's gone in 2-3 hours. And I can take this, and I'm not bragging, it's like a real story. I don't hang out with hardly anybody but like Joe Rogan or a few of the crew around here. And Joe's great. We hang out all the time. Go get dinner, go do whatever. And he'll like, hey man, what are you doing? And it'll be like 8 o'clock at night. I'm like, I just ate dinner. I'm about to go to bed. No, don't be a wimp. Say something else. Don't be a, let's go out and hang out. And I'm sitting there so tired. Been up since 5 a.m. Been to the wars. I go, absolutely, brother. I'll see you in 30 minutes. And I just walk right on into the kitchen. And I'm a little bit extra today. And I get myself, when I'm with Joe, I might say, you know what? I'm going to get myself a half a dropper. That's Patriot crack right there, ladies and gentlemen. But it's pure, it's good, it has no hangover. And like I said, it only lasts 3 hours. So after dinner and, you know, hanging out, about 3 hours into it, I am a little bit tired. So, Brain Force Plus lasts 5-6 hours. It's a different formula. Brain Force, of course, is an amazing product, both of them. Then there's Turbo Force, 10 hours of clean energy, which is a whole bunch of time-release compounds. Some hit quick, some hit middle, some hit long, some hit super long. It is next level. It's all available at InfoWarsStore.com or 888-253-3139. But just remember tonight, be glad, and don't be mean about it, that you're not this woman. In 2020, Trump is going to start World War III. And in 2022, is the computer locked up? There it is. So, 2020, Trump is going to start World War III. And in 2022, we need to start World War III. Let's not be this lady. Do you think she's at home? Do you think she's calling the shots? Or do you think she's in a trance programmed by media, believing whatever she says and does? Yes. She's in a lot of trouble. And we're not her enemy. We just want to help her. You got Greta Thunberg here. Drilling oil in the United States is bad. Drilling oil in Russia, Venezuela, and Iran is good. Good little Greta. Now that she's not 5 years old, she's not useful anymore. She's like 18 or something, but they were calling her 5 years old when she was 16. She's the autistic daughter, I'm sorry for her, of two Antifa members. So you got to feel sorry for her. All right, that's it for this transmission. Infowars.com, newswars.com, tomorrow's news today, and tomorrow. Start your engines, 4 p.m. Central. I will be here on BrainForce Ultra, cracked out of my mind, joking, crunking it, skitzing out, strung out on water and on sunshine and on truth. I'm joking. Just me and Don Jr. You saw the footage of him going crack earlier. We'll be back tomorrow, 4 p.m. Central, and we'll take your calls. I love you. Great job, crew.